Chapter 866. Next, contestants, please write down your answers as soon as possible. The countdown begins. As soon as the heavy metal rock music stopped, the host quickly said. At the same time, the countdown sounded immediately, giving no time for the contestants to breathe. Swish! Chun Guang wrote down the answer C on the answer board at lightning speed, and then put it flat on his chest with a calm face. In fact, he felt that his action was a little stupid and not handsome enough, but there was no other way. Everyone was like this, and he really could not think of any creative way to raise his paddle. This competition was indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and there were many masters. In addition to Chun Guang, there were about 30 or 40 people who wrote down their answers and raised their paddles immediately. Their speed was comparable to Chun Guang's. It seemed that these people were also proficient in German, like Chun Guang. Even if it was hard to distinguish heavy metal rock, they could still distinguish it in an instant. But the other contestants did not have this ability, and the time left for them was too short. One after another, some people followed suit and raised their paddles, while others scratched their ears and cheeks, sweating profusely. In the end, they could only barely guess an answer before the 10-second deadline and leave their hope to luck. The rules of the competition seemed simple on the surface, but in fact, it was extremely cruel. There was no room for mistakes, and the thinking time was extremely short. It just so happened that they chose heavy metal rock, which was hard to distinguish. Those who barely knew German could basically only rely on guessing. If they answered incorrectly, they would be eliminated. If they exceeded the time limit, they would be eliminated. This was the highest stage in the world of linguistics. To be able to get on the stage of the finals, they must at least be proficient in each language they declared. There was no possibility of muddling through. Congratulations to the contestant who chose the answer C. The correct answer is C. With a whoosh, there were only 35 contestants left in the first group. Brother All-Rounder is really something. Just now, he seemed to choose C without thinking. Could it be that he missed the question in advance? Nonsense. Although this competition is sponsored by Brother All-Rounder, he can't cheat under the eyes of the whole world, right? Wouldn't he lose his reputation if it was exposed? Isn't he rich enough to bribe the organizing committee and the judges? You're really thinking too much. I heard that it was a random selection from the question bank that was prepared temporarily. Even if the question was missed in advance, can you remember such a large question bank? To be honest, why do I feel that memorizing questions is easier than mastering in languages? Shut up, you haters. Which of the things he has done in the past were easy? That's right. This is only the first question. Let's wait and see. Anyway, I don't think he needs to cheat. If he can cheat in a multiple-choice question like the preliminary round, what about the semi-finals and finals? At that time, it won't be a multiple-choice question. There will be a question-and-answer session, and there will even be a live composition. How can he cheat? There were all kinds of heated discussions in Chun Guang's bullet screen, but even though the number of viewers in the live broadcast room had exceeded 8 million, there was no situation of GIFs exploding. The viewers in front of their televisions were in a similar situation. Although Chun Guang had been bragging on the internet for a long time, he had never shown his talent in this area to the world before. This was especially true for the field of language, which was different from other fields that required time to accumulate. In the eyes of many people, language was the same as literature or history. It was a field that required time to accumulate. Just like doctors, the older they got, the better they got. He was so young. What did he have? Of course, there were genius prodigies from time to time, but no prodigy would dabble in such a wide range like him. Although others were geniuses, they still had to learn. You already knew so many things in the past. There was no reason you still had time to learn all kinds of languages. You can't split a day's time into 2 or 3 days, can you? In the program, a new paragraph of clear French was played. It was an excerpt from Flaubert's novel. Just like the first question, Chun Guang still took less than a second to write down the answer on the answer board and raise his sign. Among the remaining 35 people, 30 of them actually raised their placards within 3 seconds. Only when the 5 of them had been working on it for nearly 10 seconds did they raise the sign in their hands shakily. For this question, including Chun Guang, 32 people passed. For the third question, the theme song of Slam Dunk in Japanese, 28 people passed. The fourth question was a recording of an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo in Portuguese. 22 people had passed. For the fifth question, an Italian TV talk show, 17 people passed. For the sixth question, Jay Chou's Nunchaku appeared, 13 people passed. At this time, in the first round of preliminaries, among the 100 contestants in Chun Guang's group, there were 13 experts who knew at least 6 languages. It should be noted that only contestants who didn't receive an invitation and signed up on their own could participate in the preliminaries. The more powerful contestants in the semifinals and the seeded contestants in the finals were still waiting for them. The quality of the contestants in this competition was evident. But this was not the most shocking thing. It was Chun Guang's performance all along. From the beginning of the competition, no matter what language the question was, he was always the first to raise his sign at lightning speed. He never fell behind or hesitated. Even as most staunch members of the anti-Chun Guang front, the boys from the School of Foreign Languages of Gokyo University, were completely confused. This guy's performance was a bit scary. There was only one explanation. There was a conspiracy. He passed a question. He must have passed a question. His reaction is too fast. It's impossible. This doesn't make sense. I'm an Italian professional simultaneous interpreter. I'd like to say that his reaction is faster than mine. I'm a Portuguese simultaneous interpreter. I don't know what you guys think, but I think there's something fishy going on. I used to be a fan of Brother Allrounder, and I've given him thousands of gifts in his live streaming room. But I really can't figure it out this time. To be honest, I'm very disappointed. Chu Zijin looked at the rhythm of the bullet screen in Chun Guang's live streaming room, and then looked at this guy who was intoxicated and raising his sign at lightning speed. She felt a little anxious. She began to have doubts. But reason told her that it was impossible for Chun Guang to cheat. How could a person who didn't even understand the rules of the competition a moment before the competition go to the question bank in advance? He had been streaming, playing games for the past few days. Didn't people sleep? You couldn't possibly play games in the day and memorize questions at night, right? At this time, there were also people talking about this in the bullet screen. Didn't Brother Allrounder not even understand the rules of the competition? I think he's acting. He's deliberately putting up a smoke screen. That's right. He's the boss of the organizers. How could he not know the rules? Brother Allrounder's acting is over. In order to become famous, he doesn't even care about his face. I don't care. I'm going to become a fan first. Get lost. I don't need you black fans. That's right. He used to stream so many times. So many people said this and that about him. When he lost, he would broadcast himself eating 3 pounds of sh*t. Now, I don't see a single one. There's still so much sh*t in the septic tank. Why don't you people learn from your mistakes? Black fans? Come and try out of me on QQ. I'll let you see my top-up records. My LV22 was all from Brother Allrounder's live streaming room. Then you should understand. So far, Brother Allrounder has never slapped you in the face. Forget it. You guys are already completely blind. Turn off the bullet screen to preserve your intelligence. The argument in the bullet screen was getting more and more intense. Chu Zijin couldn't help but think to herself, could Chun Guang be acting? But was it necessary? With his current fame, did he need to use such a despicable method to promote himself? After all, this was a world-class competition. Now that the attention was so high, the consequences of a scandal would be so terrible that he wouldn't be able to bear it. He would definitely lose his reputation and become a street rat overnight. Was it worth it? Also, Chu Zijin had always been confident in her ability to read people. She really didn't think that she would be blind to admire a thief who deceived the world. Moreover, although Chun Guang's words sounded ridiculous, his eyes were incomparably clear when he spoke. He was just that confident. It couldn't be faked. But not everyone was so clear about Chun Guang's movements in the past 2 days. Even the third grandson, Gao Ye, and son Xiaoxuan, who were far away in Gokyo University, were all silent. Lin Jingwei said, Brother Guang lost his composure. I really didn't expect him to be like this. Gao Ye said, this guy. Is winning or losing this competition really that important to him? No matter what, he wouldn't use this kind of method. The price is too high, and the risk is too high. Bai Fan said, maybe it's not convenient for him to say it out loud. Anyway, I think he must have his reasons. Otherwise, when he comes back, we can just pretend that we didn't pay attention to this matter. Sun Xiaoxuan said, you don't say that. Shun Guang isn't that kind of person. Xiong'er snorted. But this is the truth in front of us. Really, when he asked us to help him sign up for the 8 minor language elective courses, I felt that something was wrong. Brother Guang looks like he's been controlled by some evil force and has turned evil. Sigh, you guys just won't listen to me. I should have beaten him up a long time ago, and he wouldn't have so many problems. I've heard before that people who are possessed by ghosts just need to be beaten up. Lin Jingwei said, if you're good, you go. I'm not going. Xiong'er shook his head. Forget it. I can't beat him. I'm afraid of dying. Tang Ying, who was in the city hospital's office, slammed the table. This guy is crazy. Is it worth it? You must maintain a decent image. If your image is damaged, won't the company be finished? Tang Ying hurriedly called Wu Tong. It seemed that there was no way to stop the preliminaries, but it was still not too late for Wu Tong to rush over to stop him. They couldn't let him use the same trick again in the semifinals. When the competition became more complicated, they would definitely be exposed. But what made Tang Ying furious was that Wu Tong had actually returned to the 5 capital. That girl didn't even inform me. Also, she actually said something ridiculous like don't worry about Qingguang. This guy has a trump card? My trump card is your face. This trump card of his was clearly cheating. The audience and judges at the scene also looked at each other, speechless. This is simply a scandal in the academic world. If he wins like this, it's simply a disgrace. It's a disgrace to the academic world. Who was the one who missed the question? The president of the Esperanto Association, an old scholar from Hungary, who had just arrived today, slammed the table and said, no wonder he dared to spout nonsense on the internet. He must have planned it beforehand. Don't you think so, Mr. Huang? As a seeded player, Park Chang-nam, who didn't need to participate in the preliminaries, turned his head and said to Huang Changming, who wasn't far away. Huang Changming's face turned red. Nonsense. The Chinese make up less than 10% of the judges. The entire question bank is also a temporary arrangement, and it's completely confidential. To avoid taboo, the Chinese didn't even participate in setting the questions. What right do you have to defame us? But Huang Changming's argument was useless. Not to mention these foreigners, even the Chinese language experts had changed sides. Chapter 867. Old Huang, we really don't need to do that. Qingguang is just a star. He can be shameless. After the matter is over, he can still be a star and shoot his movies. He will have nothing to do with us. But we scholars can't afford to lose our face. From now on, how can our Huaxiao language community gain a foothold in the world? Shi Tsongde also beat his chest and stamped his feet to persuade him. Wang Jiaqing, from the Capital Foreign Language University, was not so polite. This Cheng Guang is really ridiculous. He has lost his face abroad, but I don't think he is looking for our Huaxia people. If everyone can think of it, he can also think of it. Maybe someone received his US dollars or euros. Professor Liu from Yinjing Foreign Language University also said darkly, how many years has it taken for our Huaxiao language community to keep up with the world's advanced level and get the recognition of the global academic community? That's why this year's World Language Conference was held in Huaxia. This time, Qingguang is going to lose our face. Years of accumulation have been destroyed in one day. Gao Zhida also said, Old Huang, this time you are a little inconsiderate. We know that you want to do a good job in the World Language Conference. We understand your feelings and efforts. We also supported this matter at the beginning. Qingguang is indeed rich. This conference is indeed on a high level. Generally speaking, it is also the largest world language conference in the past 20 years. If it is done well, it will win face for our Huaxia and also improve the academic status of Huaxia. But once the scandal breaks out, it will not be as simple as losing all our previous efforts. We will suffer a loss. Professor Liu said bitterly. We have let a wolf into the house. A businessman like Chen Guang, an internet celebrity, doesn't know what learning is. He has tied the entire Huaxiao language community to his pirate ship. He is using us. Huang Chaming was really annoyed by these people's words. He couldn't explain it, even if he had 100 mouthfuls of words. I have such a great injustice in my heart. Who can I talk to? Who would have thought that it would be like this? But how'd he do it? This didn't make sense. There were people watching him the whole time. It was said that he had been streaming and playing games online recently. The few middle-level executives of Tianguang Agency were only responsible for organizing meetings. They had never been in private contact with anyone. It was completely impossible. There were no signs of that, okay? Huang Changming suffered in silence, unable to voice his bitterness. I had clearly made all the preparations, but why did I still end up in this limelight? Previously, he was also worried that such a situation would occur, so he simply made the entire process of setting the question and letting others supervise it. This was because he did not want others to gossip about him. Before the competition, he had been doing quite well. Although Chen Guang was very arrogant, others were only guessing in their hearts and were not certain. Basically, no one on the internet or within the academic community had guessed in that direction. However, Chen Guang's performance in the preliminaries was too monstrous. Other than the fact that he already had an answer in his heart, there was no other explanation. Even a top-notch linguist would need at least a second to react to a language that wasn't his mother tongue. But look at him, not to mention a second. He probably didn't even have a second. The moment the answer to the basic multiple-choice question appeared on the answer board, he had already raised his paddle. But where did this kid get his hands on it? Was it completely unnoticed? Which part of the process went wrong? Who had the guts to do that? How did he dare to cooperate with Chen Guang in a competition that was watched by countless eyes all over the world? This time, he was really done for. His illustrious reputation was about to be destroyed in his old age. Below the competition stage, the three middle-level executives of Tianguang Agency looked at each other speechlessly and could only smile bitterly. Liu Xiaoyang's hand that was holding Fang Tianyu's phone was trembling. At the same time, the headquarters of Tianguang Agency was reporting to the Public Relations Department and the Publicity Department about the current situation. Based on the information that the Publicity Department had reported, it was shocking and appalling. This time, I'm done for. I've spent 9 bulls worth of effort. The total investment of the company is as high as 140 million, and I've used countless resources to run the world's language conference with great difficulty. In the end, it turned out to be a big stage for you, CEO Chen, to attract criticism. The public opinion on the internet had completely exploded, okay? Those haters who had been chasing after Chen Guang were simply pouring out their firepower in a frenzy. At this moment, the Chinese internet was basically a carnival of hating Chen Guang. But all of this was based on Chen Guang's strong performance on the scene. Others didn't need evidence, and they couldn't produce any evidence themselves. Even if the company launched an emergency publicity plan, it wouldn't be able to help Mr. Chen clear his name. What the hell is wrong with you, Mr. Chen? Even if you really have some tricks up your sleeves, and that's why you were so arrogant to bet with Par Changnam, you should at least control the rhythm and not act so unreasonable. Look, he's doing it again. Liu Xiaoyang covered his face in pain. Mr. Chen is such a smart person. Why can't he understand this logic at this critical juncture? There are at least 60 to 70 million pairs of eyes all over the world watching. You're cheating so brazenly. How can we endure it? This is already the 9th question, and it's even Hindustani. Can you at least hold back a little? Don't be like this. Chen Guang looked at the countless doubtful eyes in the audience, and then looked at Liu Xiaoyang, who was desperately trying to signal him with his eyes. At this moment, he could roughly imagine what kind of limelight would be on the internet. But he didn't intend to hold back. If I'm going to play, I'm going to play big. Finally, during the 9th question, the 11th person knelt on the Hindustani question. Chen Guang and the other 9 people held hands as they advanced to the semifinals. It was only the first round of the preliminary round, and there were already 10 people who mastered 9 foreign languages. Probably all the language geniuses were here for his 100 million renminbi grand prize. Of course, The others were showing off their talent, but Chen Guang was completely a monster that shouldn't exist in this world. Under the extremely complicated gazes of the others, Chen Guang greeted the people below the stage. He didn't say anything else and turned around to go backstage. Yu Hong and the other two hurriedly followed him. Chun, Mr. Chun. Yu Hong wanted to say something, but stopped. He wanted to get Chen Guang to go to a secluded place with them to talk and think of a way to salvage the situation. However, Chen Guang waved his hand casually. You don't have to say anything. The situation is under my control now. Don't panic. The sky won't fall. Fong Tianyu said anxiously. Mr. Chun, but the sky has already fallen. The people on the internet are making a ruckus. Lu Xiaoyang also said, Mr. Chun, we really don't have a choice this time. Why don't we withdraw from the competition after the preliminaries? Really, when the time comes, we can just make up an excuse like you're not feeling well or something. After some time, when the heat of this matter dies down, we can slowly think of a way to salvage the situation. It's fine if we lose the 50 million renminbi prize money. Where there's life, there's hope. Yu Hong was more steady. That's right. As for the bet between you, Butler, and Park Changnam, we will secretly think of a way. The finals will have a segment where the judges give marks. This kind of thing is still quite subjective, so there's some room for maneuver. As long as the two of them don't win, even if their prize money is tripled, it's not completely unbearable. Chen Guang's eyes widened. What? Old you? Actually want to play dirty? This is simply shameful. No, I definitely won't agree to it. Yu Hong and the other two stared with their eyes wide open and gasped. What the heck? I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you, Mr. Chun. How shameless must you be to be able to reveal the truth, while saying that it's shameful for others to play dirty? Chen Guang waved his hand impatiently and earnestly lectured his three right-hand men. All right. The three of you don't have to say anything else. I've already made up my mind, and there's no room for discussion. It's not the first day you've known me. Why don't you learn from your mistakes? Even his own company's people thought this way. It wasn't hard for him to guess what the people outside were thinking. But he root. None. Of. What? Go. The three of you leave. I'll say this first. Don't you dare touch the judges. As long as I'm around, Butler and Park Changnam will never win. They won't be able to win in this lifetime, and they won't be able to do so in their next lives either. In life, we must be upright and resolute. We must resolutely put an end to cheating and manipulating people behind the scenes. We must absolutely not leave any room for others to talk about us. Otherwise, I'll hold you accountable. Chen Guang's face hardened. This time, he really brought out the dignity of a boss. But it was useless. In the eyes of Lu Xiaoyang and the other two, the thickness of their Mr. Chen's skin had probably broken through the sky. If he stuck his face on a tank, it could totally be used as an anti-missile armor. Forget it. Seeing that he had really made up his mind, the few of them looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. It was useless to say anything. This guy was too stubborn and unreasonable. Let's go. We still have to be on our last shift. When he muddles his way through to the finals, especially during the debate, there'll be no turning back. Our company is going to be finished. After the three of them left, Chu Zijin, who was sitting beside Chen Guang, also wanted to say something. But she looked at the live broadcast phone in her hand and didn't know what to say. You want to say that I must have cheated, right? Chen Guang smiled. Chu Zijin pouted her lips and didn't say anything. Instead, she glanced at the phone. Chen Guang waved his hand. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to hide. I'll say it again. I'll repeat it to all of you. I promise this will be the last time I emphasize this matter. I've mastered all the languages in this world. I'm as familiar with them as my mother tongue. Stop fooling around. Chen Guang's face was serious as he stared at the phone. Really, all the languages for 1978, including the Sangmo language from yesterday's academic conference. He was not only saying this to Chu Zijin, but also to everyone in his live broadcast room. Lunatic, you're a complete lunatic. You've completely immersed yourself in your own illusion. You're immersed in the world you've created and can't extricate yourself. Chapter 868. After a whole day, the preliminaries were finally over. There were 27 groups of contestants in the preliminaries, and 10 people were selected from each group, for a total of 270 people, including the 48 contestants who successfully passed the revival round and advanced to the second round of the semifinals. There were a total of 318 people who passed the preliminaries. The statistics showed that there were a total of 323 contestants who had mastered more than 10 languages and were on the invitation list who had directly advanced to the semifinals. That meant that there would be 641 people participating in the semifinals tomorrow. As for the registered awakened ones from the Broca area like Park Chang-nam, Butler Gay, and Chu Zijin, as well as well-known scholars like Will Bart from Oxford, there were a total of 45 people who were waiting in the final round of the finals for the contestants who had emerged from the semifinals. On the first day of the competition, other than Chen Guang in the first group who had caused trouble, the other 26 groups were uneventful. It could be considered a successful conclusion. However, as the organizers of the competition, the middle-level leaders of the Huaxiao Language Association and Tianguang Agency did not dare to look at the limelight online. Really, there was no need to look. It was definitely all scolding. This time, even Chen Guang's fans could not wash it away. In fact, it was not as simple as not being able to wash it away. There were also many fans who had turned against him. Although there had always been haters lurking in Chen Guang's livestream room, it was just as one of the viewers had said. He had been continuously sending gifts to Chen Guang's livestream room. Although he had never won first place that day, he was undoubtedly a die-hard fan of Chen Guang. However, this time, he had also turned against him. And because he had been caught by the people in the bullet screen, he was very determined to turn against him. The reason was that too many people felt that Chen Guang had cheated too crazily and had no bottom line. After a busy day, little Tsong lay back and leaned against a chair. Although he had been sitting in the chair all day and had not moved much, he really felt weak all over. However, he could not rest yet. On the computer screen in front of him was a report of the day's data. Looking at the report, his eyebrows were tightly knitted. The situation was not as good as he had imagined. The two channels in Chen Guang's live broadcast room reached its peak when the first group he was in went on stage to compete. There were about 9 million viewers. However, ever since his match ended, the number of people online began to plummet. By the time of the match in the afternoon, the number of people online had even fallen below 2 million. It was even lower than when he usually played games and live-streamed. This wasn't good news. Could it be that Huaxiao's #1 online celebrity, Chen Guang, was going to fall because of this incident? Since they hitched a ride on Chen Guang's car, and with the recent increasingly fierce and increasingly popular live broadcast, the market value of Bamboo live broadcast has increased nearly tenfold. How could little Tsong bear to get off the bus? However, if Chen Guang's image crumbled, his Bamboo would also suffer. Xiao Tsong picked up his phone again and again, wanting to call Chen Guang. But in the end, he didn't make the call. His relationship with Chen Guang wasn't that close, and he understood that good advice was unpleasant to the ear. There were other people around Chen Guang. What needed to be said must have already been said to him. With his relationship with Chen Guang, it was really not suitable for him to say bad advice. Mr. Chen. A heart-wrenching roar came from Chen Guang's phone, and it was Huang Changming's voice on the other end. Chen Guang moved the phone a little further away. President Huang, what's the matter? Huang Changming opened his mouth and wanted to say it, but because it was a phone, he was worried that the content of their conversation would be leaked, so he had to cover it up. I've been looking for you everywhere since the match ended. Where are you? Chen Guang ate 2 mouthfuls of rice. Going back to the hotel for dinner. Are you free at night? I have something to talk to you about. No time, busy. Chen Guang didn't need to think to know what Huang Changming had to do. Hey, don't. Chen Guang ignored him. Huang Changming said again, Mr. Chen, what do you think about today's matter? Otherwise, tomorrow you will... I heard you have a bad cold. Chen Guang said, President Huang, I'm not sick. I'm fine. No. You're sick. You're the one who's sick. Chen Guang hung up the phone. Didn't this guy want him to pretend to be sick and forfeit the match tomorrow? What's wrong with you? Old Huang, what did he say again? Tsongda moved his head over and carefully sized up Huang Changming's ashen face. Huang Changming sighed. He knew what I wanted to say, so he hung up. Sure, Songda slammed the table and said angrily, "Ridiculous! This guy doesn't even care about his face. No, he must be disqualified from the competition tomorrow. How can anyone be as shameless as him?" Didn't you hear what he said in his live broadcast after the match? He said he knows 4,978 languages, and they're all the same as his mother tongue. This is the most shameless person in China in 5,000 years. Disqualified? Stop joking. We don't have any evidence. Do we still need evidence? Don't we? Old man, sure. Have you gone stupid from studying so much? I wanted him to pretend to be sick and forfeit the match. That's the only way. No matter what people say, it's not true. We can still deal with it. But to disqualify him, isn't that a confession? But he doesn't agree. Sai, what can we do? Don't ask me. I don't know either. Chen Guang did not know how many calls he had hung up on that night. There were at least 10 people who wanted to persuade him. In the end, he simply turned off his phone. No one could persuade him. Even the heavenly king can't persuade me. When I'm angry, everyone's face will be slapped. I'll even hit myself. The next day, looking at the 16 million viewers in the live broadcast, Xiaocong blinked his eyes. He thought he was blind. Brother who? Is there something wrong with the data? What's going on? 16 million viewers? Chang Xiaocong waved his hand and called Brother Hu, the person in charge of bamboo technology. Brother Hu ran over, sweating profusely. Director Chang, there's nothing wrong with the data. It's just that there are so many people. The CDN server can't take it anymore. The traffic is too much. Chang Xiaocong took a deep breath. Although this was great news, he did not understand what was going on. Wasn't the number of viewers dropping yesterday afternoon? Why was it that the semi-finals had only just begun and he had already ascended on the spot? It was not only Bamboo Platform. Overseas, Twaiki, CCTV Entertainment Channel, Sky Sports, and America's ABC Television were also experiencing similar situations. The number of users skyrocketed, or the viewership skyrocketed. Why was this happening? The heads of the 5 major media companies were all confused. Didn't Chen Guang show signs of depression yesterday? After a night, not only did the limelight not change, but there were more and more people scolding Chen Guang. But the result was that the viewership for today's show had skyrocketed. But these companies were smart people. Their confusion did not last long. Through the feedback from the first line of information, they quickly found the reason. Being scolded was also a form of popularity. Being criticized was also a form of attention. It was precisely because of Chen Guang's deranged act of cheating in the preliminary round that not only did he receive a wave of criticism in the country, but he was also criticized by the foreign countries as well. Many famous figures, fashion celebrities, sports stars, and scientists had raised their doubts about Chen Guang. It was so much so that there were even people who tried to direct the fire back to the incident where he forced the landing of DL Flight 199333, claiming that he had nothing to do with that incident and that he was a fake hero. He wasn't the real hero, a person who had never had a flight record before. How could he successfully make a forced landing under such extreme circumstances? There must be something fishy going on. Just like this time's World Language Conference competition. He is a liar. He is a repeat offender. But this argument was quickly clarified by the spokespersons of the major airlines. What a joke. Have you seen such a powerful liar? Until now, we have not digested the hidden meaning in his lectures. The more we study, the more we feel that he is unfathomable. If such a person is a liar, then we want the whole world to be a liar. But the scope of these airlines' clarification was limited to the forced landing of the plane. They did not get involved in the right and wrong of the language world. As outsiders, they did not understand and had no right to speak. In short, the World Language Conference enjoyed high global attention because of Chen Guang's previous hype. In the eyes of the world, he exposed the shady business and cheated in public in front of tens of millions of people yesterday. He had no bottom line and was quite unscrupulous. He used his wealth to tarnish academia, humiliate scholars, and humiliate the competition. His crazy behavior instantly brought this matter to an unprecedented height. Even some European and American countries directly put this matter into the national news as the main focus of the broadcast. The content of these news was nothing more than the following. The Chinese tycoon organized the academic conference in the name of supporting academia. In fact, he is fraudulent. He made the global language world suffer for his reputation. The media tycoon Modo said that he is richer than the Chinese people. In the future, the World Language Conference will never be held in China. If necessary, he and his media group are willing to become long-term sponsors of the World Language Conference to maintain academic purity and resist shameless hype. All these signs made countless people who did not pay attention to this matter know about the scandal that was playing out. Regarding the next day's competition, countless people had all kinds of speculations in their hearts. They wanted to see if the Chinese tycoon named Chen Guang had the courage to continue on the competition stage when the whole world saw through his tricks. Would he continue to play his clown role shamelessly until the last moment on the competition stage? Or would he pretend to be sick and withdraw from the competition? This question turned over and over in the minds of countless people. They could not forget it. Even foreign friends with jet lag were waiting in front of the TV and computer. So, whether it was Bamboo Live or other platforms, the number of viewers rushed to the sky as soon as the competition began. So, what would Chen Guang do? Chapter 869. Oh my God, the viewers in the live stream room. Chu Zijin was holding the new live stream phone that Lu Xiaoyang had just bought today. She looked at the data panel in the live stream room in astonishment. Chen Guang, who was resting with his eyes closed, looked up slightly. What's wrong? 16 million viewers are online at the same time. Oh, not bad. Xiao Chang's ladder contract has been triggered. 30 million. Chen Guang nodded lightly. Do you still care about this at a time like this? What else can I do? There's nothing for me to be serious about today. It's almost time for the semi-finals to draw lots. Speaking of which, I'm really envious of you. You actually made it to the finals straight away. It's so unfair. I should be like you guys. I said it's time for the semi-finals to draw lots. How powerful are the awakened from the Broca area? Why don't I see anything special about you? Apart from being pretty, you have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. At this moment, Chu Zijin felt that Chen Guang was cutting the conversation short again. She said east, he said west. She said cow, he said horse. What's the structure of this guy's brain? What the hell is he thinking at this moment? Forget it, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'll probably die of depression if I keep talking. The 641 semi-finalists today would be divided into 16 groups. Each group had about 40 contestants. Only 3 would be selected to enter the finals. A total of 48 contestants would enter tomorrow's finals. The elimination rate was quite high. It was very cruel. It was still the same round of drawing lots. However, Chen Guang's name did not appear in the first round of drawing lots. Still not in the second round. He probably won't come today, right? He's sitting in the contestants' lounge in his own live stream room. He's just putting on a show. He'll probably either have a stomachache or a headache, or have to run away for a few days every month. That's right. If it were me, I would know when to stop. I heard that his Tianguang agency has received almost 200 million in sponsorship and copyright fees. Didn't he earn back the money? If he had not made the bet with Mr. Butler, he would have made a profit. Don't joke around. Don't think that just because Butler and Park Chang-nam are seeded contestants, they can easily become champions. From what I can see, among the 600 or so contestants that came out of the qualifiers, there are at least a dozen or so awakened ones from the Broca region that have never appeared before. There are also a few old pedants. Although they are not awakened ones, they were once quite famous language geniuses. That's true. None of the 45 seeded players are easy to get along with. Although Butler and Par Chang-nam are the permanent directors of the World's Language Club and have high statuses, they aren't that focused on learning, right? Similar conversations could be heard in the audience below the competition venue. Even the audience in front of their televisions and computers thought that Chen Guang probably wouldn't play this time. Perhaps the moment his name was drawn would be the moment he would withdraw from the competition. Even those who were familiar with Chen Guang probably thought the same. However, Chen Guang, who was the focus of everyone's attention, didn't feel this way at all. Instead, he lowered his head and played with his phone. Many people who were watching the live broadcast on TV, in order to see Chen Guang's current performance, simply downloaded Bamboo or Twitch mobile apps. They watched the TV while watching Chen Guang on their phones. As for those who were wearing VR monitors, it was much more comfortable. VR had multiple cameras and angles. With one click, they could freely switch between the various cameras in the competition venue and the cameras in the contestants' lounge. They could also immerse themselves in the scene. Slap! Chen Guang slapped a camera that was almost in his face. "What are you doing? Are you going to give me a gastroscope?" He glared at the camera in front of him. F***CK. If I didn't know you were from a VR film crew, I would have slapped your face. The cameraman quickly shook his head and stepped back. "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. I was too engrossed in the shot. I thought that the audience might also want to experience what it feels like to look at you up close." Chen Guang rolled his eyes and ignored him. He lowered his head and continued to look at his phone. However, just now, a sharp-eyed audience member caught a glimpse of his phone screen. This guy was actually reading a novel. At this time, we thought that you would definitely do some research before the competition, or at least read some professional knowledge or something. In the end, you were just reading a web novel. You should at least read a foreign language version. At this time, the results of the third group of contestants' draw suddenly appeared on the competition stage and on the screen in the contestants' lounge. Chen Guang's name was impressively on the list. It was ranked 27th. The entire world's audience held their breath at once. In the venue, the other contestant from all over the world, the experts and scholars from the World Language Association and the Huaxia Language Association, and the audience who bought tickets to watch the competition also widened their eyes. Huang Changming, Lu Xiaoyang, and the others all had different thoughts. They put their palms together and prayed. "Sir, I'm begging you, please withdraw from the competition. It's enough. It's really enough. Your name is on it. It's your turn." Chu Zijin patted Chen Guang's shoulder. This guy was engrossed in reading the novel. Chen Guang raised his head and glanced at it. Oh, what does that mean? Are you going to withdraw from the competition or not? Then I'll go. See you later. Chen Guang said calmly, and then stood up as if nothing had happened. He was as calm as an office worker greeting his wife before leaving the house every morning. What was going on? He was as calm as drinking soup. Was he going to continue participating in the competition? The shady business was going to continue? When he really stood on the stage with the other 39 contestants, everyone finally recognized this rather ruthless reality. That's right, this guy was so shameless. He really chose to continue participating in the competition. Even if he was condemned by thousands of people, even if the whole world suspected him, it was useless. No one could stop him. "Mr. Chen, haven't you caused enough trouble?" A foreigner who looked like an old pedant standing next to Chen Guang said in a low voice. Chen Guang ignored him. He started to provoke again. "It is said that modesty is a virtue for the Chinese. Mr. Chen, you have changed my view of the Chinese." Chen Guang finally turned his head slightly and looked at him. "Old man, I respect you as an old man and won't argue with you. But can you shut up? What about me? If you talk nonsense again, I will tell the referee that you're interfering with my competition." Chen Guang turned his head and stood in the crowd with his hands clasped behind his back. "Contestants, please take a step back. An answer board will rise from the bottom of the red glass panel in front of you. Please put on your headphones. On the answer board in front of you, there will be reading comprehension questions and listening questions randomly selected according to the language you declared. You will have 2 minutes to answer each question, so please hurry up. In this round of the semi-finals, you will be eliminated immediately. If you exceed the time limit, you will be eliminated immediately. There is no chance of revival. The big screen and the live broadcast signal will randomly select the contestants' answers. The language competition was different from other competitive events. It was difficult to measure the level of a contestant with a simple score. It couldn't even be measured by the number of languages a person had mastered. For example, some people claimed to have mastered 30 to 40 languages, but in fact, they could only use simple phrases in most of the languages. They couldn't even communicate with others. Then, Their level was not as good as those who had mastered more than 10 languages and could communicate with others normally in their daily lives. Another example would be another type of person. Although they were linguists, they spent most of their time and energy on a few or 10 languages, which were not large in number. Every language had been passed down and evolved for thousands of years. They represented the culture and wisdom of a nation. Just like the broad and profound Chinese language, every language in the world had its own birth, evolution, and process of evolution. It might not be as complicated and changeable as the Chinese language, and it was not as complicated as the Chinese language, but it was also very deep in the academic field. Mastery was not as good as proficiency. Proficiency was not as good as intensive cultivation, and intensive cultivation was not as good as 10 years of sharpening a sword. It was difficult to quantify the level of the contestants. But a competition was a competition, and people would always come up with a solution. The rules of the semifinals, where one wrong answer would result in elimination, were indeed too cruel. There was also a lot of uncertainty. Because everyone's answers were different, there would be differences in the difficulty. Common types of languages could be randomly selected from the question bank. For some of the more niche languages, the World Language Association would find people from all over the world to help set the questions a few days in advance. The difficulty of such questions could not be controlled at all, but this was also an expedient measure. It might be too heartless for some of the unfortunate people who were eliminated, but this was a competition. There must be rules, and tears were not believed. Perhaps there would be people with good skills who failed in the semifinals. Then, they could only blame it on fate. In the next round of the finals, there would be a more comprehensive scoring mechanism. It could effectively avoid all kinds of accidents and assess the complete and true level of the contestants. Contestants, please get ready. Answer the questions. We will begin immediately. With a wave of the female host's hand, the semifinals officially began. The next moment, the answer panel of one of the contestants appeared on the television, computer, and the big screen of the competition venue. The square in the upper right corner of the screen was the contestant's face captured by the camera on the answer panel. The question stem was in the middle of the screen, and the number of languages declared by the contestants were in the lower left corner. The questions in front of each contestant were selected by the computer program in advance according to the language declared by the contestant, and then randomly selected from the question bank. The kind of players who had forced themselves to give false information when they first signed up are now begging the heavens to not pick a language that they didn't know very well. There had been 2 groups of contestants before. Among the contestants in the first 2 groups, most of the numbers in the lower left corner were between 10 to 15. A few people could reach 15 to 25, and a very few people exaggerated by declaring more than 30 languages. But at this time, almost everyone stared at the screen with their mouths wide open, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Host, didn't you say that the contestants would be randomly selected? Random? Random my ass. First, it was Brother All-Rounder. You had to choose one correct answer out of 40 people, and all of your answers were Brother All-Rounder. This was the most hypocritical pseudo-random we had ever seen. In the picture, it was Chun Guang's handsome face with his long hair fluttering in the wind. On the lower right corner was his name. This was all very normal, but what was up with the number on the lower left corner? Previously, we saw other contestants with 2 digits on the lower left corner. Suddenly, a 4-digit number popped out. This was not normal. The number displayed on the lower left corner of Chun Guang's answer panel was 4,978. Why didn't you just write 3,154 or 4,396? Why didn't you go to heaven? There must be a problem with the system, right? Chapter 870. The audience in front of the computer, the bullet screen of Chun Guang's live stream, and even the competition venue were in an uproar. That did not make sense at all. Not to mention these people. Even the host was stunned for a moment. However, she received a prompt from the director on her earpiece. The director urged, "Hurry up and say something." There's no problem with Chun Guang's data. This is really the information he declared himself. The female host adjusted her state of mind and said, The one who appears on the screen now is Chun Guang. He's different from the other contestants. He has declared a total of 4,978 languages. You're not wrong, and I'm not wrong. There's no problem with the procedure. This is indeed the declaration information Chun Guang filled out himself. What appears in front of him now is Irish. This is an extremely minority language. Because it's not the official language of Ireland, only 40,000 people can speak it. It's one of the endangered languages. The person who set the question is an Irish professor from Oxford. Let's invite the experts to comment on the difficulty of this question. Take the Huaxiao people as an example. If the difficulty of English is 1 star and the difficulty of German is 2 stars, then the difficulty of this Irish language should be 5 stars. That's right. Although it belongs to the Latin family, there are too few people in the world who have mastered Irish. The systematic learning method has not been sorted out. Even the Irish people hardly use this language anymore, so it's extremely difficult to learn. As they chatted, another minute passed. The contestants could finally tap on the screen and choose to directly pull up the answer to the reading comprehension question. Then, Chun Guang pressed the button at lightning speed. As soon as the answer appeared, he chose B. 2 huge words appeared on the answer board. Correct. The host and the expert commentator froze at once. We're talking about how difficult the question is. Why don't you pretend to think about it a little? After a brief, awkward silence, the female host, who had made rapid progress in the past 2 days, immediately changed the topic. She switched the screen to the other contestants and continued to ask the experts and judges on the field for advice. Compared to the other contestants, Chun Guang has applied for an incredible 4,978 languages. So, may I ask all of you, in our question bank, are there really close to 5,000 languages? As one of the organizers of the competition, Huang Changming was also a well-known scholar in the country. He rubbed his eyebrows in pain and said, "To be honest, even though Chun Guang said he knows all languages, this is the first time I've seen the registration information of the contestants. I'm really shocked. I have to admit that we were not meticulous enough in our work. We collected questions from more than 800 different languages, and we took care of almost all the languages spoken by more than 100,000 people. Of course, we didn't let go of representative languages like Irish, which played an important role in history, but we really couldn't take care of every single language. In the previous closed-door statistics, we also specifically addressed the needs of some special small language players. We used the method of intersecting players to come up with questions or urgently contacted scholars from all over the world. We almost achieved 99.9% accurate coverage. However, when Chun Guang filled in the registration information, he didn't check the pre-selection language we provided. He directly checked the others and then added that 4,978 languages, we really can't do anything about it. Huang Changming was really a bit broken. Finally, another minute passed. 5 of the 40 contestants answered incorrectly and were immediately eliminated. Soon, they entered the second question. The so-called random selection once again locked onto the camera lens of Chun Guang. This time, what appeared in front of Chun Guang was the Frisian language, which was only spread in the East Frisian region of Germany and was mastered by less than 1,000 elderly people. This was not a reading comprehension question, but a listening question. A barrage of Frisian words rang in everyone's ears, even though they didn't understand what they were saying. But this time, there was no difference from the first question. The female host was talking with other experts about how difficult this question was. As a result, 1 minute had just passed, and the listening question had just ended, and Chun Guang instantly wrote the answer on the answer board with a stylus. A completely synchronized image appeared in the live broadcast signal. He actually used a language that no one could understand at all. The female host really couldn't control her emotions and said something very unprofessional. He can't be scribbling nonsense, right? No. My God, he's not scribbling nonsense. A strong middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes suddenly stood up from the guest's seat, very emotional. "Mr. Marquez from Germany, do you have any questions?" The female host asked in English. The man named Marquez slightly sorted out his emotions and then said in slightly salt and pepper Chinese, My family used to be from Frisian, but our family has moved to Bavaria for many years, and the Frisian language has gradually been forgotten. In my family, the last person who could read and write Frisian was my uncle. He passed away the year before last. This recording was provided by me. 10 years ago, during a family gathering, my uncle told us a proverb from our hometown in Frisian. Then, he translated it sentence by sentence and told it to us. My uncle also wrote the story down. He hoped that we wouldn't forget Frisian. But we disappointed him, and I'm deeply sorry and ashamed. But the answer that Chen Guang wrote is exactly the same as the answer that my uncle wrote in the end. Marquez took out his mobile phone, and the high-definition live broadcast lens kept zooming in. The photo taken by his mobile phone appeared on the screen, and it was exactly the same as the words that Chen Guang had written on the answer board that looked like scribbles to others. I really didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who could write in Frisian. I'm really a little excited that I can't even speak coherently. Marquez continued to say excitedly, "Mr. Chun, I'm willing to be your student." There was an uproar in the huge venue. Chen Guang, who had already taken off his headset, waved his hand indifferently. The other contestants are still answering the questions. Although they are wearing headsets, now is not the time to talk about this. You can go back and sit down first. Yes, Mr. Chun. Marquez sat back down with slight reluctance. The person next to him teased him. Marquez, what are you thinking? How can there be such an incredible person like him in this world? Don't you think that the whole thing is being manipulated? He has written in almost 5,000 languages. There are also more than 800 languages in the question bank. Why did your Frisian coincidentally appear in his question bank? How could he answer it so easily? That's right, there must be something wrong here. What he did today is even more outrageous than yesterday. This computer system must be being manipulated. Marquez was stunned at first. That's impossible, right? Just wait and see. If you don't believe me, after today's competition, why don't you ask him to write something else in Frisian to try? He'll probably draw you a simple Snoopy. That's right, this was what many people were thinking. This seemingly random computer question, in many people's minds, was even easier to manipulate than yesterday's competition mode. Even Huang Changming, the organizer of the competition, and the middle management of Tianguang Brokerage knew that none of them had tampered with the system. However, what Chen Guang did today was even more suspicious than yesterday. For the third question, Chen Guang still finished it in 1 minute. At this time, there were only 30 contestants left. Worldwide, close to 80 million online viewers were all stunned. No one would have thought that he would have no bottom line to this extent. When everyone had already discovered his true nature as a liar and thought that he would withdraw from the competition, not only did he not withdraw, he even went even further. Not only did he answer the questions, he even had the handwriting function. Can't you have a little more shame? Chen Guang said, "Of course I have shame. I didn't cheat, and there's nothing wrong with this computer system. The one that's wrong is your brain." But no one believed him. There were less than 1,000 old men in the world who could speak a language, and not only could he understand it, but he could also write words that would soon be lost. Are you kidding me? When the fourth question was also solved by Chen Guang at the speed of light, Huang Changming's face turned completely pale. "President Huang, you have to give all of us a reasonable explanation. Why did such a situation happen?" The people from the World Language Club, Park Chongnam, Butler, and the others couldn't hold back anymore. Even though the competition was still ongoing, they started making things difficult for Huang Changming in front of everyone. Huang Changming trembled for a long time. His mind was blank, so he decided to just throw in the towel and say, "Don't ask me everything." The process of setting the questions, the writing of the computer program, and the backstage technicians in charge of operating the computer were all provided by you. The entire process was open to the public, and everyone was supervising each other. What didn't you see? Now you're asking me what's going on? I'm the one who wants to ask you. Butler Gay said angrily, "Excuses. This is a farce." That's right. Chase Chen Guang down now. The commotion among the people below the stage was getting more and more intense. These people were arguing loudly in front of Chen Guang. Chen Guang finally spoke. "Everyone, must you do this?" "Of course. Your behavior is too shameful. We absolutely can't accept it. You don't have the right to step onto the stage of the finals. Chen Guang waved his hand and said, "Evidence? Do you have any evidence?" For a moment, everyone was stunned. They really did not have any evidence. Everything was just speculation. Since there's no evidence to prove that I cheated, what right do you have to question the fairness of the competition? Why are you so anxious? There's a debate in the finals. Can I still advance by manipulating the competition or leaking the information in advance? Chen Guang's expression became more and more severe as he spoke. I have reason to believe that all of you are using baseless speculation to defame me. I reserve the right to pursue your slander. You want me to withdraw from the competition without any reason. That's a violation of the rules of the competition. As an investor, I have reason to believe that this competition is unfair. According to the contract, I have the right to withdraw my investment. I have reason and the right to terminate the competition. Chen Guang's words were spoken in front of everyone. The huge venue was silent for a moment. He wasn't wrong. This time, even the other contestants were anxious. Everyone had flown thousands of miles from all over the world to come here. Wasn't it for the huge prize money? If Chen Guang wanted to stop the competition, it would mean that the prize money would be gone. Who wouldn't be afraid? Chapter 871. Mr. Chen, don't be like this. This time, even the president of the World Language Club wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He was anxious. Chen Guang sneered. It's not that I don't want to be like this, but you'd better shut up. The fairness of this competition can't be denied by your random guesses. Time will prove everything. No one thought that Chen Guang would fly into a rage in public. In their eyes, no matter how rich or powerful a cheater was, he must be psychologically weak and inferior to others. They felt that Chen Guang's choice was like an ostrich. He wanted to hide his head in the sand and stick his butt out. He knew that everyone could see through him, but they couldn't do anything to him. He shamelessly turned this sacred and noble competition into a farce. At least so far, Chen Guang's performance really showed such signs. He ignored everyone's doubts about him, but he never publicly responded. He still walked forward in this competition step by step. This showed that there was no problem with other people's guesses. This was indeed his plan. But now he suddenly flew into a rage in public, leaving everyone at a loss. What was wrong with the world? Since when could even thieves be so arrogant and domineering as to walk openly under the sun? You're obviously a shameful thief. Where did you get your courage and guts from? How shameless must a person be to be able to say such nonsense with his eyes wide open like this? Chen Guang looked at this group of people who were flustered and stunned. He said with a cold face, "Since I participated in this competition, you people have been slandering me on the internet. I didn't respond to you, so you think I'm guilty?" With that, he looked around and said, "Why? Are you afraid of losing the prize money? Don't dare to say it? Ridiculous. You are extremely ridiculous. I didn't respond because I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Because it's more powerful to do something practical than to say 10,000 words of nonsense. I plan to keep silent until tomorrow's final, but you really annoy me like flies in the toilet. Congratulations, you've finally succeeded in angering me. But from now on, I hope that all of you will shut your mouths. If anyone dares to ask me to withdraw from the competition again, I will turn this competition into a real farce. This will indeed cause my company to suffer heavy losses because I did not complete the sponsorship and live broadcast contract, but it doesn't matter. Although I love money, I love face even more. What? Mr. Park Chan-nam, Mr. Butler, Mr. Buzz? Judging from your expressions, you don't seem to be very happy. Do you have any objections? Sorry, even if you have something to say, please hold it in. You better think this through. I'm sponsoring this competition. For this World's Language Conference, I invested a total of 140 million. I once said that this is the stage I built for myself. Whether you believe it or not, that is the truth. On my stage, I won't allow any comments or opinions that make me unhappy. Otherwise, we'll break up. Do you understand? Do you understand the Chinese expression for breaking up a deal? You can say whatever you want behind my back. Even if you find a dark wizard to cast a curse on me, it doesn't matter. But now, even if you want to strangle me to death, please tie your hands up. Chen Guang fired off a barrage of words. At this time, the other 23 contestants finally solved the fourth question. Fortunately, these contestants were wearing excellent soundproofing headphones, so they did not hear Chen Guang's unreasonable barrage. Otherwise, they could forget about answering the question seriously. However, after this group of people took off their headphones, they raised their heads and looked at the judges in front of them, the experts and scholars in the guest seats behind them, and the ordinary audience behind them with their mouths wide open. Their minds were filled with confusion. What happened? Was there an earthquake just now? They did not know if there was an earthquake, but the competition venue was definitely shaken. All right, since no one has any objections, let's continue the competition. At this time, Chen Guang snatched the MC's job and waved his hand. The female MC suddenly came back to her senses. She first looked at Huang Changming and saw him nodding bitterly. She hurriedly said in a clear voice, "All contestants, please put on your headphones and focus on the next question." Chen Guang did not say anything and slowly put on his headphones. He could probably imagine what people on the internet would say, but he did not mind. Everything would be revealed tomorrow. It did not matter if others scolded him or hated him. The foundation of all their beliefs was based on the premise that he was a cheater. However, in the finals, he could sweep away all dissatisfaction like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. At that time, those who scolded him today would understand how stupid they were. Only the weak would argue in vain, and the strong would only prove themselves with real results and ability. I don't care if there's a flood outside, just don't let me see it again, and don't continue to talk about me in front of me. It doesn't matter what I don't hear or see. Reality proved that he was not someone who could live in the upper class. If it was Bai Hua or Lu Fei in his current situation, perhaps they would choose to continue to endure it. At the very least, they would put these words behind the scenes and not fly into a rage in front of everyone. Wu Tong, who was watching TV in her office, summed it up well. Wu Tong bitterly smiled and said to herself, "I know you're pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Do you think I don't understand the tricks you learned from novels? I thought you could hold it in until tomorrow, but you really can't hold it in. However, you're really going to be condemned by everyone this time. You brat Sai, really?" At this time, Tang Ying called. Tang Ying hurriedly said, "Lady Tong, you're also watching the live broadcast, right? I already told you to persuade him. Now that it's like this, what should we do? There are many colleagues in my office who used to like him, but now they're starting to say bad things about him. This brat is simply crazy. This won't do. Hurry up and call your colleagues in Yanjing. Tell them to go to the Dongcheng Convention Center and drag him away no matter what." Wu Tong sighed. "Lady Ying, don't be silly. Now that he's like this, we can't stop him, okay? Even if I drag him away now, the impact of this matter will be gone. This is just confessing, okay? Then what should we do now?" Wu Tong grinned. "Nothing. Wait until tomorrow, when he makes everyone kneel down and sing Conquer to him. Then the whole world will be quiet. This is his greatest source of confidence. That's why he's so unbridled today. How is that possible? Chen Guang did it. I swear on my honor." Far away on the lawn of Gokyo University, Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and the others who were watching the live broadcast on their phones were also silent. After a long time, Lin Jingwei took a deep breath and said, "This time it's all over." "Is he really crazy?" Gao Ye's eyes widened. Sun Xiaoxuan stammered. Bai Nyangzi beat his chest and stamped his feet. What is Brother Guang thinking? How could he say that? Even if he can shut up the people in the venue, he can't control the mouths of the people on the internet, right? Isn't he just burying his head in the sand? He can't do this. Xiaonger said, "Brother Guang can't be thinking of deceiving himself and winning, can he? But what's the point?" Lin Jingwei stood up and said, "God knows. Little Lin, where are you going?" Gao Ye asked. Lin Jingwei hesitated for a moment. "I'm going to call my grandfather." Gao Ye and Sun Xiaoxuan were stunned. Both of them knew who his grandfather was. So, things had already gotten this serious? Xiaonger and Bai Nyangzi didn't understand what was going on. Lin Jingwei took 2 steps forward and suddenly stopped. He turned around and said, "Forget it. I'm not going." Gaia urged, "Don't you go. You should go. Now, only your grandfather and the others can stop him from going crazy, right?" Lin Jingwei shook his head. "I just realized something." "What?" they asked in unison. Lin Jingwei clenched his fists. If Brother Guang was just playing around, he wouldn't do this. It wasn't the first day I'd known him. Although Brother Guang often did things unconventionally, he never fought a battle he wasn't prepared for. I was just thinking that maybe he really has something to rely on. Maybe what he's been saying all this time is true. Stop it. How is that possible? Do you think humans are computers? What about 4,978 languages? Can you remember it all? Don't you guys think it's weird? Lin Jingwei said. Please finish your sentence, or I'll make sure you die a slow death. Gaia clenched her fists. Lin Jingwei quickly restrained himself. We all know how bad Brother Guang's English was in the past. Lu Yinggui's title is not for nothing. But last semester, when the professor from MIT came, Brother Guang suddenly stood up and spoke. His accent, his strength, it was like he was a different person. Don't you guys think it's weird? Everyone's eyes gradually lit up. Bai Fan clapped his hands and said, "You're right, it's really weird." I even asked him a few times, but he always pretended to be mysterious, saying that he suddenly got enlightened. Lin Jingwei nodded. That's right, but I don't think he's lying. He suddenly got enlightened. But now it seems like he didn't just get one. Xiong'er asked, how many? Lin Jingwei said doubtfully, for 1,978? Bai Nyangzi said, that's like a sieve, right? Xiong'er said, even a normal sieve doesn't have that many holes. Lin Jingwei coughed and said, Okay, let's get down to business. In my opinion, haven't there been stories of people being struck by lightning and suddenly being able to speak other languages? In my opinion, Brother Guang must have been struck by lightning or electricity, so he suddenly learned all the languages in the world. Other than that, there's no other explanation. Bai Nyangzi said, it must have been a stormy night, and the lightning would have to be as thick as a water tank to hit his face. Xiong'er said, if he was electrocuted, he would have to be electrocuted for at least 3 days and 3 nights. Gao Yu was also infected, and it had to be 380 volts of industrial electricity. Lin Jingwei said, great minds think alike. Chapter 872. Another 20 to 30 minutes passed. Amidst the strange and silent atmosphere of the competition, Chen Guang and 2 other experts who had mastered over 23 languages stood in the end. The average standard of Chen Guang's Group 3 was not weak. In fact, it was quite high. At least 20 people had declared for over 15 languages. As for those who had actually mastered close to 20 languages, there were even 8 people who had declared for over 20 languages. After eliminating the majority of those who had made false declarations, muddled their way through, or had bad luck, the remaining 23 people stood alongside Chen Guang on the 15th question. When it came to the 16th question, Chen Guang and 7 other people successfully answered the question. The other 15 people were immediately eliminated. The reason for that was simple. They had no more questions to answer. They had only declared for 15 languages to begin with. After another 8 difficult questions, the other 7 people were eliminated one after another. Only Chen Guang and 2 other people were left. Those who had been eliminated due to the small number of languages they had declared might have felt wronged. They could say that they had a deep understanding of certain languages. Their specialty was mastery, but not miscellaneous. However, the competition did not believe in tiers. This was the highest stage in the world. Even if these people had spent a decade sharpening their swords in 15 languages and all of them had reached the master level, how could they be compared to those awakened ones from Broca region who had mastered more than 20 languages? Some even reached up to 34 languages. They were geniuses and hardworking. Take Chen Guang's 2 companions, for example. One of them had just publicly acknowledged his identity as an awakened from the Broca region, while the other was a professor from a famous foreign university. Both of them had declared for over 30 languages. However, this semi-final round was not enough for them to display their full strength. As for Chen Guang, who had declared for 4,978 languages, no one believed that he had any full strength. Compared to the uproar at the end of yesterday's preliminary round, today, when Chen Guang walked off the stage, the large venue was completely silent. It felt like the calm before the storm. If it weren't for the fact that there would be a debate between the contestants in the finals, Chen Guang's true colors would be revealed. Even if the contestants, scholars, and experts could barely hold themselves back, the audience would have made a ruckus. But now forget it. No matter how arrogant he was, at least they, who had bought tickets to watch the match, were able to witness a good show with their own eyes. As for your shady dealings, as long as you're happy, the higher you jump now, the harder you'll fall later. In the past 2 days, Chen Guang had really brought himself a lot of haters, so much so that many people in the venue looked at this matter coldly. President Chen, after Chen Guang came down, Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang all appeared backstage. Yu Hong, who was the steadiest of them all, took the initiative to walk forward. His tone was heavy, as if he wanted to say something, but he hesitated. On the other side, Lu Xiaoyang quietly moved next to Chu Zijin, who was broadcasting, and gave her a look, asking her to turn off the live broadcast. Chen Guang nodded at Chu Zijin, then calmly greeted the audience in the live broadcast room, and then asked her to turn off the private live broadcast camera. Now, the haters in the bullet screen could no longer be blocked. Even if Chen Guang's own authorized moderators and the 20 to 30 super moderators from Xiaocong Zhuzi's side went all out, they still couldn't stop the flood of haters. This was different from the past. In the past, most of the haters in Chen Guang's live broadcast room were paid by the studio to cause trouble. Basically, they could block the IP segment and kill them. Today, these haters in the bullet screen were basically fans of Chen Guang in the past 2 days. They were real passers-by who turned to hate. These people couldn't even be counted as haters, but netizens with a heart of justice. They came from all over the world, and each of them had a heart to uphold justice and resist the shady business. They crazily attacked Chen Guang's bullet screen. They weren't robots, but people with flesh and blood from all over the world. Everyone's IP address was completely different, and it was impossible to block the IP segment. All right, old you, we've said the same thing too many times. Let's talk about it after the finals tomorrow. All right, Yu Hong nodded. Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang didn't try to persuade him this time. Things had already become like this, and there was no turning back. At this time, whether he withdrew from the competition or deliberately lost the competition or whatever else, it was impossible to change the situation. President Chen, our company won't collapse, right? In the end, Lu Xiaoyang couldn't help but ask this question before Chen Guang left. Chen Guang smiled. It won't collapse. Just wait to get rich. Our journey is the sea of stars. This small matter is nothing. Yu Hong and the other two were stunned. But in the end, Lu Xiaoyang didn't say it out loud. When Chen Guang walked out of the Dongqing Convention and Exhibition Center, she was waiting for him in the car. The competition was still going on inside, but Chen Guang wasn't in the mood to continue staying inside. He felt uncomfortable all over, so he might as well go back to the hotel to play games. Several people in the company were still busy organizing the competition, and Yang Shi, who had nothing to do, became his driver. Chen Guang, I watched the live broadcast of the competition just now. As soon as he got in the car, Yang Shi said this without any rhyme or reason. Chen Guang grunted, and then Yang Shi suddenly smiled. It seems that you're really impatient. Don't worry, I won't persuade you like others. What do you mean? Yang Shi started the car and said with emotion, I have an idea, but it might not be completely correct. In my eyes, people who can really act, who can live in other people's plays, must have rich life experiences. Why do people say that old actors have good acting skills? Apart from a few real geniuses, most of the old actors had accumulated their skills bit by bit over time. Then, they applied their understanding of life into their acting skills. Only then could they become old actors. Although others don't know your acting skills, I do. I think, although you're young, you must have some unknown experience that made you understand life. I think you've been acting recently, and you're acting for others to see. Chen Guang was stunned at first, but then he smiled and said, You really think highly of me. No. This is my intuition. As a director, my intuition about actors. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Just like now, many people are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. But you must have a way to deal with it, right? Chen Guang rubbed his nose and nodded. He didn't expect that when others thought he was finished, Yang Shi, who didn't have much contact with him, could see it so clearly. Perhaps this was the truth. The closer you get, the more you can't see MT Tai. On the way, Chen Guang received a call from Little Kong that, Brother Chen Guang, although I know those people at the venue went a little overboard. With you gone, there's only one channel left in our live broadcast room. The number of people online has dropped to less than 10 million. Chen Guang looked out the window. There's no rush. I'll start broadcasting again in half an hour. Broadcasting what? Broadcasting a game. Little Tsong, half an hour later, Chen Guang's personal live broadcast room started broadcasting again. The haters and Chen Guang's few remaining hardcore fans who had just dispersed swarmed back again. Everyone thought he couldn't handle the pressure today and was going to ditch the show, but they didn't expect him to start broadcasting again. Even though his competition was over, what was he broadcasting now? When these people opened Chen Guang's live broadcast room, they thought they were seeing things. They then switched to the main stage to confirm that they were not blind. This guy is actually playing games. The competition is still going on. You're playing games again? Can't you be reasonable? Since you're participating in the finals tomorrow, aren't you going to do anything to prepare? Although he was being scolded, his popularity in his live broadcast room rose rapidly. Including the audience on the main stage, the total number of viewers was stable at more than 13 million. By the time people got off work at 5 or 6 p.m., the number continued to rise. By the end of the day, it was still around 15 million. Chen Guang was determined today. Not only did he not look at the bullet screen, but he also turned off the voice and microphone in the game. It was obvious that he was listening to the music 1v9. I don't have the mood to talk nonsense with you mortals. My time is very valuable. With that thought in mind, he once again immersed himself in the intense stairway solo matches. It was another half a day of intense and exciting stairway matches. His solo points did not increase by much due to his wins and losses. Currently, his solo points were as high as 10,800, which was 1,500 points higher than the second highest in the world. If it was not for V Club's special care, it would have been almost impossible for him to be matched with an opponent. It was precisely because his points were too high that his teammates, who had an average of 8,000 points, became worse and worse every time he competed. Although he could carry the entire game every time, the gap between his teammates and his opponents was getting bigger and bigger, and the matches were getting harder and harder. However, he enjoyed it. At his current level, only this seemingly fair but actually deceptive matchmaking mechanism could allow him to experience the fun of the game and be completely immersed in it, ensuring the effects of his training. In the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. A total of 93 contestants finally appeared in the finals. After what happened the day before, the entire competition's popularity rose once again. This was definitely the most blatant under-the-table manipulation since mankind entered the internet era. No, this is no longer under-the-table manipulation. This is clearly a blatant robbery. The stupid Huaxiao Language Association had become a complete laughingstock. It was precisely because of their inviting the wolf into the house that this fellow, Chen Guang, had the opportunity to wave his check and forcefully intervene in the academic conference like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He turned this rigorous and sacred occasion into a child's play and his plaything. He played with academics, the audience, and everyone. He treated everyone as if they were blind and unscrupulously played dirty in the competition. Others exposed him, but he still used the prize money to blackmail others. He was simply insane. Was he the richest person in the world? Of course not. His personal assets were still worlds apart from reaching the next level. Even the richest people in Europe, America, or the Middle East were not as arrogant and despotic as him. This young internet celebrity, who had just turned 20, was completely immersed in his own world and could not extricate himself. He felt that money talked and that he could flout morality with a check. His success came too suddenly and too easily, so the young him was lost. But what could he do in the finals? This was a debate PK elimination system with random lots drawn, and there was also a judge's scoring segment. Could it be that he had already bribed all his opponents and then bet all the way to the championship? Stop joking. Other than Chun Guang himself and that very young and beautiful Huaxia female contestant, the other 91 people wished they could skin him alive, gnaw on his bones, eat his flesh, and fry his kidneys. It was not that the television, computers, or the live audience had a pair of eyes that could see through people's hearts. It was that the other 91 contestants standing in the field, including well-known scholars like Butler Guy, Park Chan-nam, Will Bartz, and Powell Bryan, were all staring at Chun Guang, who was standing at the front as if there was no one else around. These people's eyes hid countless emotions such as contempt, hatred, disgust, and resentment. It was rather complicated, and there was no doubt that all of them were negative. Any normal person could see that everyone was unhappy with Chun Guang. Why do I feel a little chilly? Chu Zijin, who finally didn't have to be the host today and stood in the crowd with Chun Guang as a contestant, said to Chun Guang faintly. Chun Guang snorted. If looks could kill, if the power of curses could really send people to hell, I would have probably died 100 times. Sigh. I didn't expect you to end up like this. It doesn't matter, let them be. Chun Guang said casually and then did not say anything else. He frowned slightly and fell in a deep thought, as if he was thinking about something. Seeing him like this, Chu Zijin sighed in her heart. She actually felt that it was not worth it for Chun Guang. No matter what he did, no matter how unreasonable his behavior was, if it weren't for his crazy devotion, the Shiyu society wouldn't have had this kind of attention. At most, it would have been able to occupy a headline in social news. But so far, other than a profit of more than 30 million, which was not worth praising to him, he had not received anything. If either Butler or Park Chan-nam achieved good results, Chun Guang might even suffer a heavy loss. So what are you after? Chu Zijin tilted her head and looked curiously at the side of Chun Guang's face, trying to see through his thoughts. You must have realized that the situation is not good, right? What do you plan to do? After today's competition, what kind of storm will be waiting for you? No matter how he performed today, it seemed unlikely that he would be able to turn the tide of public opinion on the internet and in the language world. If he lost, it would prove that he had cheated before. If he won, it would prove that he had cheated before and that he had cheated even more crazily today. Whether he won or lost, it would be useless. As the saying goes, water can carry a boat, but it can also race a boat. Cough, cough, it can also capsize a boat. Chun Guang, you started off as an internet celebrity, but now that you have been courting death for a long time, you have completely lost the limelight in public opinion. You can't take back what you have done. Your success is due to the netizens, and your downfall is also due to the netizens. At this moment, Chun Guang suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes lit up, and a strange smile appeared on his face. What did you think of? Chu Zijin hurriedly asked, wondering if he had a solution. With a grin, Chun Guang responded, It's nothing much. I intend to change the competition rules later. This is not good, right? The PK debate system and the scoring system of the judges have been used for many years. This is the finals, and we can't use the same method of answering questions. Chu Zijin exclaimed. Chun Guang shook his head. Who said that I want to cancel the PK debate? I just want to change the single elimination system. Change to what? Change it to me alone and debate with the 92 of you. What? Chapter 873. Chu Zijin stared at Chun Guang with her eyes and mouth wide open. She was speechless for a long time. She was stunned. She felt that, as a genius, she did not care about anything. Live broadcasting was just for fun, and she did not like to communicate with the comments online. She was probably considered a relatively arrogant and maverick person. When Chun Guang appeared, she quickly became a fan of Chun Guang. It was also because she felt that he was a bit like her, and he was even more monstrous than her. When she saw the bad news about him on the internet, she used the pen name Chu He Hanjia to write articles to defend him. In order to write articles related to him, Chu Zijin spent a lot of time looking for clues related to him on the internet. She organized the things he had done in the past and thought that she had a good understanding of this person's character. But after interacting with him for a few days, although it was not a long time, in Chu Zijin's heart, Chen Guang's image and character could be said to have changed dramatically. Of course, he fell from the sky to the ground in an instant. It was undeniable that this person was indeed very talented. But there were times when he was simply unreasonable, like a child. She had to say something good about him. His mental state could be called overconfidence. To put it bluntly, it was ignorant, inexplicable, and ridiculously childish. She was quite disappointed. At first, she really thought that he had enough real talent to support a considerable degree of competitiveness in this competition. But as time went on, Chu Zijin's thoughts gradually changed. When someone said that Chen Guang cheated, she would not believe it. When some people said that Chen Guang cheated, she was shaken. When the whole world said that Chen Guang cheated, not only did he not give any explanation, but he also became more and more unreasonable. When he crushed all his opponents in the competition, she gradually accepted this statement in her heart. Although she did not realize it herself, and did not think that she had been shaken, she still did her best to complete her work as a host. And even now, she was worried for Chen Guang. Deep in her heart, she didn't want to see Chen Guang suffer. But in this matter, deep in her heart, she had indeed acknowledged Chen Guang's cheating. But now, he actually said that he wanted to debate with 92 people at the same time. Are you kidding me? This was a competition watched by the entire world, not a child's play. Why can you do whatever you want? How could you trample on the rules of the competition like that? I don't care, but what right do you have to make the other contestants go crazy with you? Aren't you humiliating me? Besides, where did you get your confidence from? At this time, the female host on the other side had already finished the opening remarks of the final and was ready to announce that the competition had begun to enter the random drawing stage. In this round of drawing lots, 2 contestants would be randomly chosen to fight against each other. First, the 2 contestants had to report how many languages they knew and complete a question-and-answer session with the judges. Then, they would debate on the overlapping languages they knew. The judges would analyze their mastery of the overlapping languages based on their performance in the debate and grade them accordingly. Finally, the various performances of the contestants were taken into account and the final score was compared. The contestant with the lowest score would be eliminated. It sounded complicated, but the principle was actually very simple. The more proficient one was in using a language, the faster one's thinking would be when communicating with others. For example, when Chinese people argued with others in Chinese, the smarter ones could argue for 10 minutes without repeating the same language. But for the same person, even if he had passed CET-10 in English, he would still be unable to think of new words to argue with his international friends in English. He would even often get stuck in his own language. For such a high-level competition, it was naturally impossible to use the method of shouting and cursing. Therefore, the judges would appoint a debate topic at the last minute and let the 2 contestants debate on the spot. Moreover, the judges would suddenly ask for a change of language during the debate. At this time, the contestants' vocabulary, proficiency in using language, and the depth of their language mastery would show obvious differences. For example, in Chinese language, "You are so stupid" was much more cultured than "you idiot." "Your mother is here" was much more accented than directly saying that someone's mother was dead. Similar situations existed not only in Chinese, but in other languages as well, achieving the same result through different means. Ladies and gentlemen, next, we will use the method of drawing lots on the spot to select the first group of PK contestants. In order to strive for fairness, this round of the finals will use the method of drawing lots. Now, there were 2 transparent glass boxes, which contained ping-pong balls numbered 1 to 93. The method of drawing lots is to take out the table tennis balls from the first box first, and then from the second box. If the numbers of the 2 table tennis balls are not the same, the 2 contestants will be invited to the stage for PK. If the numbers of the 2 table tennis balls are the same, a new number will be drawn from the second box. If the number in the first box belongs to the contestant who has already competed, a new number will be drawn. Next, let's welcome the president of the Chinese Language Association, Huang. With a stiff smile on his face, Huang Changming stood up from the VIP seats and walked to the stage step by step. He really wanted to dig a hole in the ground and crawl into it. He would come out 30 years later to embarrass himself. But he had no choice. He was the head of the competition organizer, and he had to stand up. He even had to pretend to be very happy with a smile on his face. This last-minute decision to use the table tennis lottery, which was similar to the national lottery, was also his deathbed struggle. Until now, he still did not know how Chen Guang had done it. But when it comes to a computer program, no matter how magnanimous you are, the results will always be criticized by others. I'm using a table tennis ball to draw lots live under the eyes of the whole world's audience. I can't possibly make a mistake, right? You can't say that Chen Guang bribed all the other 92 contestants, can you? Everyone was here for the 100 million grand prize. They were all strong and confident that they had a good chance. It was impossible to bribe all 92 contestants. At this time, a loud voice suddenly came from the stage. Wait a minute, I have something to say. Everyone, including the host, turned their eyes to the source of the voice. Huang Changming's legs trembled, and he almost fell to the ground. The camera under the control of the director shook, and finally, it seemed to be very reluctant to turn around. There were up to 20 million viewers in Bamboo's live broadcast room, and nearly 100 million viewers in all the channels around the world. They all looked at the face on the computer or mobile phone screen, and a huge question mark suddenly appeared in their minds. You seem to be making me laugh. Chu Zijin, who was standing next to Chen Guang, silently covered her face with her hands. He really did it. So embarrassing, so shameful. Stay away from him, and don't let others find out that I am familiar with him. Yu Hong and the others below the stage wailed in unison. Boss Chen was going to do something big. Huang Changming was really about to cry. Big brother, at this time, what do you want to do? Mr. Chen, what can I do for you? Huang Changming cautiously asked. Chen Guang smiled. I think it's too troublesome. Too troublesome? Huang Changming and the host asked together. Chen Guang nodded. Yes. If it was any other contestant who interrupted the normal drawing process in public, the judges could immediately announce that he was disqualified and send him to the plane. But Chen Guang was different. Apart from the fact that he was the sponsor of the competition, he was almost the focus of all the topics and attention of the entire World Language Society. He was a very special existence. Yesterday, he had also flipped out in public, and the judges knew how powerful he was. If they said that they wanted to disqualify him, he would directly withdraw his investment and break up. Who could they find a reason with? Wait, he felt that it was too troublesome. Could it be that he finally thought that he had enough and wanted to withdraw from the competition? Huang Changming's eyes suddenly lit up, thinking that it was not impossible. Of course, he knew that the matter had become like this. Whether Chen Guang withdrew from the competition or not, it would not help his own reputation, but it was a great thing for him. Huang Changming tentatively asked, Mr. Chen, then what is your plan? At this moment, the other experts and scholars, including the president of the World Language Society, also thought of this point. Although they wanted to see him embarrass himself in the competition, this was also the highest academic forum of the World Language Society. It was already tragic enough that he had caused such a farce. It might not be a good thing for him to turn into a bomb on the competition stage and detonate it. Therefore, they did not stand up to question him and allowed Chen Guang to interrupt him. As for the other participants, they wanted to humiliate Chen Guang when they encountered him. However, when they thought about how they still had to collect the prize money from him, they decided to endure it for now. Even if they wanted to scold him, they could only do so after the competition ended and collect the prize money. However, there were always people who did not believe it. For example, Par Changnam was the first to jump out and said in standard Mandarin, Chen Guang, have you had enough? Although others were unhappy with Chen Guang, they would still give him some face. However, Par Changnam, who had a bet with him, did not have such thoughts at all. At this point, it was impossible for Chen Guang to do anything to him. He also wanted the competition to start quickly. It would be best if he and Chen Guang were drawn together so that he could humiliate him. In addition to being able to easily move forward in the elimination mode finals, more importantly, he would be able to chase away this clown who had tarnished the academic world. He would then become a hero who defended the dignity of the international language world. Butler Guy also jumped out. That's right. You're disrupting the competition. I think there's no need to draw lots for the first group. It'll just be you and me. Chen Guang, do you dare? Chen Guang was stunned at first, then he grinned. You're asking me if I dare? Of course I dare. However, may I ask the judges if we can challenge someone in the finals like this? The judges were stunned at first, and then they started whispering to each other. I don't think I've encountered such a thing before. There has never been such a crazy person like Chen Guang in the past. What do we do now? The rules didn't explicitly mention this issue. Everyone, I think we can agree to Butler's request. Butler Guy isn't someone that can be bribed. He's someone that has hopes of winning the championship. Since Chen Guang has no intention of withdrawing from the competition, why don't we let Butler face him and make him lose? Even if the preliminaries and semifinals will damage our reputation, at least we'll be able to defend the dignity of academics in the finals. Wouldn't it be better for us to let the Chinese Language Association take the blame? It was the old president of the World Language Association who had such ideas. After some discussion, the old president of the World Language Association personally made the decision and said loudly, "After our emergency discussion, we have decided that, with the consent of both parties, the contestants can choose their opponents and initiate a challenge." There was an uproar in the audience. This kind of competition system was, of course, unreasonable. It was simply a breeding ground for shady dealings. But it didn't matter. In order to get Chen Guang out of the competition as soon as possible, it was not a big deal to change the rules temporarily. Anyway, before today, other contestants would not have thought of this temporary challenge rule, and certainly would not have discussed it in advance. Moreover, everyone knew how troublesome this year's World Language Association was. They all understood the reason why the jury agreed to challenge the rules. They just wanted to watch the fun, and no one would really jump into the muddy water. Hearing this, Chen Guang suddenly clapped his hands. Good. What do you mean? The old president of the World Language Association was stunned at first. Butler also felt that something was wrong. Why did this guy seem so happy? Also, what did you mean by good? Did you agree? Chen Guang took a step forward and said loudly, I just said it was too troublesome because I think this kind of round after round of elimination takes too long, too troublesome, too boring. Since the rules now allow the challenge mode, it's convenient. Not only will I accept Butler Guy's challenge, but I will also challenge others at the same time. Next, I will challenge. He paused a little. There was a brief silence in the hall. Everyone was waiting for his next words. The audience in front of their televisions, computers, and mobile phones also had a huge question mark in their minds. The World Language Association's old president heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Chen Guang's excited and dazzling face. At first, he was still confused, but he quickly reacted. Something was wrong. Could it be that we had been fooled? In fact, he had already bribed most of the 93 contestants and planned to challenge others by name, relying on others to send him to the championship step by step. But he had already agreed to Butler's challenge. Could it be that Butler was also bribed by him? Not only did the World Language Association's old president think this way, even Butler's loyal ally, Park Chongnan, was shocked. He then turned his head and looked at Butler with a scrutinizing gaze. Butler, you... Butler waved his hands. What are you doing? What are you thinking? How is this possible? I can't wait to kill him, okay? On the other side, Chen Guang took a deep breath and finally spoke again. He turned around abruptly, looked at all the contestants, and said loudly, I want to challenge all the contestants here. The entire world was in an uproar. You didn't hear wrongly, all the contestants. Apart from me, the other 92 contestants. I challenge all of you at the same time. Do you dare to accept? It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what language you use. If I can't answer a single question during the debate with me, I'll leave immediately and apologize to everyone here. Also, the prize pool will be doubled. My bet with Butler and Park Chongnan is still in effect. The huge venue including the countless televisions and computers, was silent. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. This is too much. You are insulting us. This time, it wasn't only Park Chong-nan and Park Chong-nan who flew into a rage. The other contestants also started shouting angrily. However, Chun Guang still had his hands behind his back and had a calm expression. That's right. I am insulting you. So, it doesn't matter who it is. As long as I can't answer, I will immediately admit defeat and fulfill my promise. I will also apologize to everyone. I know that many of you want to see me make a fool of myself. Now, give me a joke in front of the entire world. Let me ask you, do you dare to accept? For the sake of one-line Sky's language master statue, Chun Guang threw caution to the wind. The spring was already tight enough. It was time for it to be released instantly. Fine, I accept. Butler was the first to speak. Park Chong-nan also clenched his fists. I will be the first to send you off. Chu Zijin smiled bitterly and said in her earpiece, all right. Let's do it this way. Either I become his stepping stone, or I will personally send him off the stage so that he can calm down and reflect on his sorrowful life. Chu Zijin thought so in her heart. The other 89 contestants also waved their hands excitedly. Agree. Get off the stage immediately. End this ridiculous farce. Chun Guang was still smiling. Then, he turned his head and looked at the old president of the World's Language Club calmly, before looking at Huang Changming. Fellow judges, now that all the contestants have agreed, shall we start the challenge now? Do you need to choose a topic? I alone will debate all of them. The entire world was shocked. Chapter 874. Questions? What other questions do you want? You guys can do whatever you want. After a short moment of hesitation, the old president waved his hand impatiently with a flustered and exasperated expression. Do whatever I want. Chun Guang nodded. That makes sense. After all, it's quite troublesome for me to remember all 92 questions. The others were almost speechless. 92 debates were not scientific, but it was even more troublesome and unthinkable for a total of 92 contestants to challenge at the same time, all of whom had mastered an average of more than 20 languages, all at the same time. Even if these 92 people had mastered overlapping languages, according to the World Language Association statistics from the contestant registration information, these 92 people had mastered close to 800 languages. Not to mention debates. Even if these people were to talk to you about trivial matters, your brain would still be a mess, okay? You should know your priorities. Chu Zijin and the other opponents of Chun Guang were speechless when they saw that he still didn't take it seriously. They couldn't be bothered to ridicule him anymore. Forget it. It's better to send him away quickly. The remaining 92 people could form pairs and enter the normal competition. Chu Zijin thought to herself that no matter what, she, who had mastered 33 languages, was actually a strong competitor in this competition. It was just that she didn't care about these things in the past, and she didn't have a reputation, so she was looked down upon. She didn't have a particularly strong desire to survive. Participating in this competition was originally for Chun Guang. However, letting her win was much better than letting Butler or Park Chong-nam win. At least Chun Guang wouldn't be seriously injured because of this competition. Forget it, I'll be more serious. After a short period of preparation, the huge stage was filled with 93 swivel chairs. One of them was in the center of the stage. This was Chun Guang's seat, and the other 92 people's chairs were arranged in a circle. At this time, the people watching the live broadcast with VR equipment at home were very happy. Thanks to the new technology, there was even Chun Guang's perspective. Chun Guang, who was sitting on the swivel chair, looked up at the camera above his head. Chun Guang was also speechless. Forget it, just leave it at that. Due to the impromptu adjustments to the competition, a simple adjustment has been made to the rules of the competition. In challenge mode, other than Chun Guang, the other contestants have a responder in their hands. The contestant who presses the responder first can choose any topic to communicate with Chun Guang. The contestant will ask a question first, and Chun Guang will answer. Each contestant's time to ask a question cannot exceed 30 seconds. Chun Guang's time to think is not more than 30 seconds. Chen Guang must use the same language as the questioner. After each contestant completes a question-answer session, they will enter the queue and wait for the other contestants to finish their questions before continuing to the second round of the question-and-answer session. In addition, during the question-and-answer session, contestants are not allowed to use a language that has already been used by other contestants or the contestant themselves. There will be a prompt on the answer board in front of each contestant. Each contestant's performance in the challenge mode question-and-answer session will be immediately scored by the judges. This score will affect each contestant's ranking in the next round. The female host stood beside Chen Guang and announced to the other contestants. Although there was no possibility of a second round, she added in her heart. After taking a breather and letting the contestants digest the new rules, the female host asked again, "May I ask if anyone has any objections to the impromptu adjustment of the rules?" "No objections." "Sure." Park Chang-nam teased. "All right, let's start now. There's no second round, and I don't think there's a need to score because there's no second round at all. If everyone can't even ask a question once, what's the point of scoring?" After saying that, he looked around proudly, hoping to see two people in the crowd who would support him. Unfortunately, no one cared about him. It wasn't easy to quickly end this farce. The others even felt that staying on stage for another second was an insult to themselves. Now, everyone just wanted to end it as soon as possible and didn't want any more accidents to happen because of the provocation. Since no one has any objections, then the special segment of this year's World Language Conference, the question-and-answer session that Chen Guang will challenge all 92 contestants at the same time, will now begin. The female host said loudly as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Then, she quickly turned around and left the stage, leaving the remaining time to the contestants. Standing beside Chen Guang, the pressure on her was actually quite great. The beeping sound of the countdown constantly echoed in the huge venue, just like the countdown before a bomb was detonated. Chu Zijin placed her finger on the answer board and focused her gaze. Because no matter what she did, it was always too easy to reach the peak. In her young life, she rarely had such a serious moment. This was the problem of a genius. Such a person's heart was always wandering. But this time, she wanted to personally send Chen Guang off. In his first question, he said, "Don't let anyone else humiliate me." After all, he was someone she once admired and worshipped. She didn't want to see him in such a sorry state. Let's end this laughable farce. I hope you can recover from today's setback and regroup. When that time comes, I will worship you once again. According to the information on his side, Chu Zijin had just spoken a language called Brahmila. It belonged to a province in South Africa. About 3 million people spoke this language, and the person behind him was a linguist from South Africa. I'll stand up and explain directly. The judge picked up the microphone and slowly stood up. The first round of the question-and-answer challenge, Chen Guang passes. Contestant 77 just used Brahmila, and there are about 3 million speakers. Just now, she said a very famous proverb in this language. In Chinese, the gist is as follows. If you pray in your heart every night before you go to bed, you will definitely see the sun the next day. This is the first half of what contestant 77 said. Chen Guang answered the second half of the proverb. The gist is but wild wolves can't understand human prayers, so all the clansmen must take turns to protect our home. The pronunciation of the two contestants is very accurate, especially Chen Guang. He used a special grammar that only the elders of the clan can use. The huge venue was instantly in an uproar. Butler and the others rolled their eyes in disdain. It was indeed as they had guessed. This Chinese girl was throwing the game. The two of them had colluded long ago. Too shameless, too despicable. Feeling the questioning gazes from all directions, Chu Zijin's lips trembled, but she did not try to defend herself. At this time, it was useless to say anything. In fact, she was even more surprised than the others. What was going on? She had chosen the extremely difficult Brahmila language from the start. But why could he answer it without even thinking? Moreover, his pronunciation was even more accurate than hers. He had caused others to think that she had cooperated with him to cheat, but that was not the case at all. The countdown sounded again, and the question and answer session continued. This time, Butler and Parchanam did not succeed in answering. Instead, another language genius from Australia, an awakened from the Broca area, succeeded. It was still a long string of strange pronunciations that ordinary people could not understand, and he even said it for a full 30 seconds. But this time, Chen Guang's reaction was faster. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Guang quickly answered. Contestant 39 is right. The biggest enemy of the Withram tribe isn't the Barabar tribe on the other side of the mountain, nor is it the extinct Odolin tribe. What Chen Guang said is right. The enemy is never others, but ourselves. Only a bison that lets down its guard will be ambushed by a lion. The strongest cattle in the herd will always be on guard. This is a language passed down among the indigenous tribes of Australia. Today, there are less than 200,000 people who know it, and it will soon disappear. Two members of the World Language Association from Australia, members of the competition's panel of judges, stood up and explained. Everyone could see the shock and confusion on their faces, but the truth was that Chen Guang had indeed answered the question. The awakened from the Broca area who had asked the question was still bowing. He was about to sit down when he was suddenly caught off guard. It was obvious that he was very puzzled. This time, the audience was in an uproar again. Perhaps this person had also been bribed by Chen Guang? It was the third time to answer. This time, Park Changnan was the first to press down on the answer board. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, he took a deep breath and thought to himself, "You said it yourself. If you get one question wrong, you will lose immediately. I don't believe you even know a dialect that only 8,000 people know." 40 seconds later, he stood there with a pale face. That's right, Chen Guang had answered the question. Before he could even finish a sentence, Chen Guang had already given him the answer he wanted. The fourth question, the fifth question, the 38th question, the 56th question. After about half an hour, the conference room of the East City Convention and Exhibition Center was still silent. However, this silence was completely different from before. Everyone's mouths were wide open as they stared blankly at the man on the swivel chair. As he had said, he was challenging them all by himself. No matter who it was, no matter what language they used, he just sat on the swivel chair and kept turning his body. Then, without hesitation, he conversed with these people in a language that was completely unrelated to them. All of this seemed so calm, like a group of people sitting together and having a simple tea party. But the fact was, this was the highest stage in the world of linguistics. Every sentence he said was in a different language. Yet, every time he opened his mouth, he spoke so skillfully, just like how he bragged on the internet. It was like his mother tongue. Whether others used a proverb, a short story, or a complicated tongue twister, he was always able to come up with something. Did he really bribe everyone? Everyone knew that it was impossible. So, what did this phenomenon mean? No one was willing to accept this unbelievable reality, but it was right in front of everyone. Chen Guang had indeed mastered all kinds of languages, and each of them was like his mother tongue. How did you do it? Where did you get so much energy from? Are you still human? Your day isn't only 24 hours, right? It should be 72 hours, right? Where did you learn so many different languages? No, if I remember correctly, the number he wrote on the answer board yesterday was 4,978. Does that mean that he really knows 4,978 languages? Could it be true? What a terrifying thing. Chu Zijin had been sitting quietly in her chair. Since the first person to answer, she sat in the crowd and quietly watched as Chen Guang chatted with every contestant who rushed to answer the question. She didn't know why, but her heart, which was about to turn cold, gradually began to beat wildly again. Her blood began to slowly heat up again. She knew what kind of state this was. Her fighting spirit began to burn. If everything you said is true, I am willing to be a witness to history, just like all the people who fell at your feet in the past. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, she would never have thought that there was such a shocking genius in the world. So, the limits of human beings are so terrifying? Everyone thought that Chen Guang would have to pack up and leave in a few minutes at most. But the fact was, after about an hour and a half, he was still sitting on the chair with a calm face. Although the other 92 contestants had only asked one question so far, all of them were sweating profusely and their faces were pale. Unknowingly, the number of online viewers in Chen Guang's live broadcast room had exceeded 25 million, and the total number of viewers in the 5 major channels had also exceeded 130 million. It was completely different from the past few days. Today, until now, no one was scolding him while watching the live broadcast. The bullet screen in the live broadcast room was full of countless ellipses, or 666, or invincible. Or, XX asked me why I kneel to play on the computer, XX asked me why I kneel to play on the phone, and so on. 92 languages, this was not his limit. The competition was still going on, and there were at least 6 or 7 hours left. The audience called their friends, asking others to quickly come and witness this incredible moment with them, and at the same time, to improve their posture. What else in this world was more interesting than watching a show? They could only watch a show that could not be reproduced. Wife, come and see God. Husband, come and see God. Dear David, come and watch TV. Is this man going to rule the world? I used to be an atheist until today. From now on, I worship this language god named Chen Guang. I can't understand how he did it all. Even now, I don't want to believe it is a fact. But maybe there is something different about his body structure. I heard that there are some special institutions in China that capture such people for research. Are you kidding me? He is a billionaire. On the stage, there was no expression of joy on Chen Guang's face. After being extremely high profile, he suddenly became deep again. He was looking down at the 92 languages that had been completed on the answer board. He sighed slightly, sighed still early. Everyone, hurry up and try to finish it before it gets dark. I'm very busy. That's right. According to the temporary rules, he really intended to answer the other 92 people until they had nothing to ask. The second round of the competition was about to begin. Once again, Chu Zijin snatched first place. But the outcome this time was no different from the previous times. Her questions did not stump Chen Guang at all. She sat back on the chair softly, her mind numb, and did not know what to say. She could even foresee the scene when the competition ended in the afternoon, when the sun set. That would be the moment when someone ascended to the altar out of thin air. Chapter 875. Unknowingly, the final started at 9:30 in the morning, and the time slowly went to 11 o'clock sharp. Except for Chen Guang and Chu Zijin, all the contestants had a look of horror on their faces. Even if this had become a fact in front of everyone, even if in the question and answer challenge, Chen Guang had used his irrefutable performance to tell everyone that what they knew, he knew, and what he knew, they didn't necessarily know. But many people still couldn't accept this reality. They felt that they were dreaming, that all of this was an illusion. Perhaps when they woke up, they would find that the sky was not bright yet, and the competition had not officially started. This was all a dream, but the fact was that the question and answer challenge was still going on. At the beginning, everyone was rushing to ask questions, but gradually, everyone's mood was not so enthusiastic. Everyone followed the instructions on the answer board and took out their own trump card that no one else had used, but it was useless. Chen Guang still answered without thinking. It was as if he never needed to think. The number of people in the live broadcast room was still rising. In recent days, although the ratings of major TV programs had reached new highs, and the number of people online for the live broadcast of Bamboo and Twitch was also constantly breaking records, only a few people had actually watched the live broadcast. Many people saw the news related to the World Language Club on social media sites such as Weibo or Twitter, and then saw the news reported by those media people, marketing accounts, or current review media. Then, these people followed others in the comment section and fiercely criticized Chen Guang's performance. Although they knew about this matter and understood it on a certain level, because of one reason or another, they were not interested in watching the competition directly. At first, these people did not intend to watch today's finals directly. Even if they thought with their toes, They knew that either that person was really shameless enough to bribe the whole competition and turn it into a complete farce, or what was waiting for him was to leave with his tail between his legs. When something lost its sense of expectation, these people who regarded the World Language Club and Chun Guang as dispensable were even less interested in watching the competition. But now, all of a sudden, the real-time reports about this match instantly flooded the screen. Whether it was social media or media information apps, or these people's circle of friends, QQ groups, WeChat groups, or other chat software groups in offices or classrooms, or even in public restrooms, every corner of the world was talking about this competition. These people were curious and thought to themselves, why don't we take a look? Therefore, these people who came from all over the world and spoke a variety of languages casually turned on the TV or clicked on the live broadcast with the thought that it wouldn't hurt them to watch it. Then they couldn't get away. At first, they only saw Chun Guang using all kinds of strange languages to chat with the other contestants in a circle, so they didn't think much of it. They even wondered if there was something wrong with the competition being so calm. But when they slowly understood the temporary rules of the question and answer challenge, they were completely dumbfounded. God, this program was toxic. Boss, let me take a day off. Boss, listen to my explanation. This TV show is too scary. I really wasn't slacking off during work. Boss, how come you're starting to look like that? That was basically the rhythm of the entire online world. Finally, it was noon. At this time, Chun Guang had already displayed the ability to speak more than 150 languages. In a short span of a morning, he had already broken the highest record in human history. In order to ensure the fairness and authority of the entire competition, the panel of judges even changed the rules once again. In the middle, they specially took out 10 minutes to check the languages that Chun Guang had used in the question and answer challenge with the other contestants. They let the two of them have 3 simple conversations that lasted more than 3 minutes in the same language. Of course, there were no problems with the results. Chun Guang discussed the recent U.S. election in Heslet, which only 300 people in the world knew. He discussed the recent scandal of the South Korean president in Kookisnut, which only 3,000 people knew. He also discussed the refugee problem in Germany with people in Caucasian. All the tests and challenges were not a problem for him. To others, switching languages was like facing a formidable enemy, but to him, it was like chatting after a meal. It was easy and casual. On the contrary, the other contestants who were randomly checked to communicate with him were stuttering. It was not that their level was not up to standard, but they were simply too nervous. This feeling was like when humans faced a god. They were respectful and humble from the bottom of their hearts. Even though today, Chun Guang was no longer arrogant and always had a spring breeze-like smile on his face, the oppressive feeling he gave off was even stronger. The reason was very simple. He no longer needed to use words to show his ability. Every word he said and every word he spat out was a miracle to the world. After a short break at noon, the competition continued at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the third round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 300 languages. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the fourth round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 370 languages. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the fifth round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 460 languages. Unknowingly, he had challenged 92 people at the same time in the question and answer challenge, and it had already reached the sixth round. The most unacceptable thing was that up until now, he did not show any signs of fatigue. Anyone who had learned a foreign language knew that when communicating with people in a language that was not their mother tongue, no matter how good they were at it, it would still consume more energy than usual because of the switch in their thinking patterns. But what about him? Every sentence was different. He had been chatting with people for a full 6 hours, but he did not show any signs of fatigue. He just drank a lot of water and went to the toilet several times. I'm sorry, I withdraw from the next question and answer challenge, and I also withdraw from this competition. I lost. At this moment, one of the finalists suddenly raised his hand and said, he was the first contestant to announce his withdrawal from the competition. The others turned to look at him. In fact, They all knew the reason, but they could not bear to ask him. The female host, who did not know what was going on, quickly stood up from her chair. Contestant number 63, may I ask why you want to withdraw from the competition? The contestant's face changed slightly, revealing a painful expression. Then, he took a deep breath, looked at Guang with fear, and said helplessly, although I know as many as 33 languages, they are all relatively common. In the previous question and answer challenge, all the languages I know have been used once. I can't ask any questions. Regardless of whether Mr. Chun can really answer all the other contestants in the next round, regardless of whether Mr. Chun may be eliminated, my self-discipline as a scholar makes me too ashamed to continue to stay on this stage. Mr. Chun, I'm sorry. I apologize for my previous teasing of you in my heart. As he said that, he simply raised the answer board in his hand, showing the large number of gray icons on the answer board, which meant that he could not choose to the audience. Then, he bowed to Guang, who was sitting in the middle, and then turned around and left without looking back, leaving an empty swivel chair. 2 drops of crystal-clear tears silently fell on the smooth glass floor of the stage. The well-known linguist from Belgium shed tears on the stage. Wow, there was an immediate uproar in the venue. Before this morning, no one thought that the finals would turn out like this. No one thought that Guang could actually debate with someone for 6 hours and use 460 languages. For a whole 6 hours, he did not have the slightest bit of hesitation, nor did he stutter. He was always at his fingertips, always using the most precise vocabulary and the most perfect pronunciation to answer his opponent's questions. Even when his opponent could not understand his vocabulary, he could even write down the language on the answer board on the spot and give a live lecture. This was a stage where almost all the language geniuses of the human race were gathered. Everyone on this stage, no matter how noble or despicable they were, no matter how old they were or how young they were, there was no doubt that none of them who could pass through the layers of preliminaries to get on this stage were mediocre. But Guang sat on the fishing platform with the posture of a king, debating with 100 heroes. This was the most incredible 6 hours in human history. No one knew how he did it, and no one thought that the human brain had such a terrifying capacity. There have been studies in the past that said that the human brain might be less than 10% developed. This view might not be completely correct, but there were indeed many blank areas in the brain. There was no doubt about that. The appearance of Guang seemed to have opened a new door for everyone. There was no doubt that the potential of human beings was far from reaching its limit. Where everyone could see, that man was sitting there, and he represented the new world. There was no need to think about how he did it. They only needed to know that it was already a fact. Everyone understood that they were witnessing an incredible feat now. Finally, there was the first scholar who fell behind. But everyone knew that if Guang did not make a mistake and continued this question and answer challenge, there would be more and more people falling behind. Sure enough, the question and answer challenge continued. At first, on average, every few minutes, someone would stand up and announce their withdrawal. Later, the frequency of contestants withdrawing became higher and higher. Almost every time Guang showed a language, one or several contestants would stand up and leave the field together. The more it went, the more common languages were used up. The languages that Guang and the other contestants showed became more and more uncommon. At 5 o'clock, the 6th round was completed. At 6 o'clock, the 7th round was completed. At this moment, Guang had shown 644 languages. There was no repetition at all, including Chu Zijin, Butler, and Pu Tsang-nan. There were only 31 contestants left on the stage. Chu Zijin looked at the last 2 green languages left on her answer board, and she was silent. Her heart was beating faster than ever. It was hard for others to understand her feelings. Only she understood. As a genius who once thought that she was invincible in the world, when she saw another realm of human beings, how excited would she be? Guang, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I might have thought that I was already outstanding enough. I also want to thank this era. If it wasn't for people like you being born in this era, I might still be immersed in this kind of arrogant, yet mediocre life for the rest of my life. Compared to you, I am as ordinary as a grain of sand on the beach. From now on, in my heart, you are the goal that I want to chase after. Perhaps I might not be able to catch up to your back in my life, but it doesn't matter. As long as I can still see the footprints you left on the ground and run towards you step by step, I will definitely reach the peak of my life. I will definitely not let this life of mine be wasted. Chapter 876. Butler and Pu Tsangnan had a bitter expression on their faces. At this moment, there is only one language that they could choose from on the answer board. From morning until now, it had been close to 9 hours of fierce battle. Everyone was racking their brains to think of what kind of questions they could use to make Chen Guang unable to answer them. What kind of unpopular and niche language did he have to use to make this guy stumble? They really didn't dare to ask for more. Everyone knew that he was fully deserving of being the strongest in the world, and no one could be compared to him. However, they themselves, even now, they still didn't understand what was going on in this world. They had lost without any temper. No, we don't belong to the same world. Maybe we are not even the same species. No, we humans are three-dimensional creatures. Maybe this guy, Chen Guang, is a four-dimensional creature. We are living in different dimensions. How can we compare with you? 6:30 a.m. Chu Zijin used the Xixiao language that had been completely lost and only existed in her family's ancient books. Only 5 archaeologists in the world could barely understand a little bit of it. She asked, under the situation where our lifespan is limited, how can humans surpass their own limits? Chen Guang answered, believe that you can do it unconditionally. Then, run toward the person you want to become and never stop. Even if you fall on the road, you can still let your life burn with a dazzling brilliance. Humans are never individuals that exist alone. Regardless of whether they are geniuses or mediocre people, they are all part of the long history of humanity. Humans, as a whole, have always been surpassing their own limits. But as far as an individual is concerned, they have always been living within the limits of humanity. Chu Zijin asked, what about you? Chen Guang answered, I have already answered your question, but for your sake, I will say one more sentence. I am also a human, but the meaning of my existence is to let you people see another realm of humanity. Are you a god? You can interpret it however you want. Chu Zijin stood up abruptly and said to the panel of judges, my question is over. Just now, I used the long-lost Xixiao language. Thank you, judges, and all the audience. I withdraw from the competition. However, she did not leave. Instead, she sat back on the chair. With a flushed face, she looked at Chen Guang with a smile. No one knew what she was thinking. However, Chen Guang saw through her thoughts from the sudden change in the faith value threads above her head. Her faith thread did not grow thicker. Instead, it quickly changed color. A faint emerald green thread slowly floated out from her forehead and went straight into the Holy Grail in her hand. After Xuelin, he had gained a new fanatic. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. The smile on his face grew wider. You're amazing, my sister. Chu Zijin's faith output was even higher than Xuelin's, reaching 2,333 units per day. It should be known that fanatics were not restricted by the upper limit of the world deity statue in the Holy Grail. This meant that his faith output had increased by 2,333 units. Of course, when he thought about the world deity statue in the Holy Grail, this output was not that great. The real gain was not the faith value, but the cute girl. The cute girl who was a fanatic. Just thinking about it made him feel good. Mr. Butler, Mr. Park, please prepare for the first answer. The female host, who had been working hard for the whole day, was almost exhausted. However, at this time, she regained her composure and returned to the stage with a face full of excitement. There was no other reason. There were only 2 people left on the stage. The other 90 contestants had all withdrawn from the competition. Huang Changming turned to the old president of the World Language Association beside him and asked in puzzlement, although Butler and Park Hangnam are famous scholars, I have never heard of them being much stronger than the other awakened ones from the Broca region. Why are the two of them sitting at the end? The old president scratched his remaining hair. I don't know either. Perhaps their knowledge has improved during this time? At this time, the countdown for the first answer rang again. Butler and Pu Tsangnan looked at each other in dismay. In the end, it was Butler who was thin-skinned and stood up with a red face. Sorry, I have no more questions. With him taking the lead, Park Sangnan also stood up. Me too. As he said that, he showed his answer board. As expected, it was a patch of gray. The female host could not control her temper for a moment. Then the two of you should have withdrawn from the competition. Butler's lips trembled slightly. However, Park Sangnan argued. No one said that we have to withdraw from the competition. All right. The competition is over. The others have all withdrawn. The first, second, and third place will naturally be among the three of us. Chen Guang was stunned. No wonder these two did not leave when they should. They were still thinking of this? What wishful thinking. However, in the previous 7.5 rounds of the question and answer challenge, the judges must have given each contestant a good score, right? Who would be so shameless to sit at the end and be in the top 3? Then I will find 2 pigs and tie them to your chairs. These 2 pigs can also be in the top 3. Get lost. Chen Guang did not give Park Sangnan any chance to be sly. He waved his hand and said impolitely. The two were hesitant and did not want to leave. However, Chen Guang suddenly grinned and said, "The two of you, did you forget something? The question and answer challenge has been going on for an entire day. Have the two of you been too busy?" Pu Ba and Park Sangnan were stunned for a moment. Then, an image appeared in their minds. Then, they remembered the contract they signed on the black and white paper. Both of their faces turned pale in an instant. Chen Guang looked at their faces and knew that they finally remembered the bet. He said, "It seems that you have not lost your memory. Very good. However, even if you have lost your memory, it doesn't matter. The contract can help you recover your memory. It doesn't matter if you're the second or third place. This prize money has nothing to do with you. On behalf of the Lou Gehrig's disease, I thank the two of you." This time, Pu Ba and Park Sangnan completely gave up. They recalled the day of the academic conference. At that time, they thought that Chen Guang was being unreasonable. Now they understood. This guy had been planning this for a long time. Okay, don't make a fool of yourself. Butler, you two go down. Mr. Chen is right. The ranking of the competition still depends on the score. The World Language Society's old president's lips trembled. He slowly stood up and said with a trembling voice. Everyone could see how excited he was at this time. It was unknown whether the old president was angry because of Butler and Park Sangnan's incompetence, or because he had witnessed the whole process of Chen Guang's apotheosis. Park Sangnan and Butler blushed and hurriedly ran down the stage. The old president sorted out his emotions and looked at Chen Guang with a complicated expression. After pondering for a long time, he finally said in a clear voice, "This year's World Language Conference competition has ended successfully. The champion is Chen Guang, who has mastered 707 languages. Congratulations." Chen Guang waved his hand. "Sorry, you're wrong. It's 4,978 languages." The same words came out of his mouth, but this time, no one doubted its authenticity. Everyone felt that as long as he was given enough time and didn't find it troublesome, he would be able to perform 4,978 languages on the stage one after another. The old president took a deep breath. Not bad. The champion is Chen Guang, who has mastered 4,978 languages. In the entire Dongcheng Convention and Exhibition Center, thousands of live audience cheered thunderously. The audience in front of the TV and computers also couldn't help but stand up and applaud. Chen Guang stood up from the swivel chair and walked firmly to the edge of the stage. He didn't bow to anyone like the other contestants. This was a competition that he had used his own money and personal influence to operate bit by bit. Using this competition, many people, including the Huaxiao Language Association and the World Language Association, could earn a lot of money. Chen Guang knew that it was because of his unrequited investment whether it was money or fame, that the World Language Conference had become what it was today. There was no need for him to belittle himself. This is the throne I built for myself. I don't need to thank anyone. If he had to thank someone, it wouldn't be these people in front of him, but the heavenly Holy Grail and the glass in it. As for now, it was time to enjoy the glory that belonged to him. Chen Guang could feel that the heavenly Holy Grail behind him was undergoing an incredible change. From the heads of the thousands of audience in front of him, from the heads of every member of the judging panel, from the heads of every contestant, and from so far away that he couldn't see it with the naked eye, countless pure white threads of faith were surging toward the heavenly Holy Grail behind him. At this moment, it was as if the color of the sky had changed. When the deity statue of the one-line heavenly Holy Grail was born, the movement between heaven and earth was stronger than ever before. He was the only one who could see this phenomenon. No one could understand the excitement in his heart at this moment. Chen Guang clenched his fists tightly and raised his arms high, enjoying the worship of everyone in the venue to his heart's content. His hard work paid off. After putting in so many days of hard work, he had finally completely displayed the language master that he had cultivated in the sea of transient to the world, and he had received undisputed recognition. Everything was worth it. Looking at the tall figure under the light, Chu Zijin's heart thumped. She sighed in her heart. The moment she had been waiting for was finally here. Just what kind of existence was this man? In Gokyo University, Lin Jingwei and the others, who had already skipped classes for 3 days, were speechless for a long time. After a long time, 2 large words floated in the sky. F***CK. Damn it, my face hurts. The 3 grandsons and Gaoya in the dormitory all had the same thought. It wasn't hard for them to imagine how smug Qingguang would be when he returned. No, we better go out and hide for a while. Otherwise, he'll definitely ride roughshod over all of us for a long time. Thinking of his self-proclaimed title of invincible prodigy, they all felt tired. Sun Xiaoxuan cupped his hands over his heart, his eyes shining so brightly that it hurt Gaoya's eyes. Wu Tong lightly tapped her fingers on the desk with a smile. Although she had already expected this moment, she still couldn't control her racing heartbeat. Tang Ying, who sat next to her, blushed and cursed. Is this guy crazy? The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You should have kept a low profile. Do you know how many people you're going to scare to death? Wu Tong advised. It's not like we've known him for the first time. With his personality, he'll probably suffocate to death if he keeps this kind of ability to himself. Tang Ying glared at Wu Tong. You only know how to help him. You're not a medical student, so you don't understand. I bet that 50% of the doctors in the world want to dissect him and see what's going on in his head. However, Wu Tong remained silent. Chen Guang was, after all, a vice-ministerial minister in China, and he was also the chief of the Guangdong General Administration. So how could any random doctor touch him? Moreover, even if the Chinese authorities wanted to study him, they'd probably have to ask if he was willing. However, she didn't have to worry too much about this. Every era would have people who were different from ordinary people. For example, Wang Meng in ancient times or Tesla 100 years ago. If one could really figure out the origin of a genius ability by dissecting a genius, then humans would have already left outer space. There were still countless unsolved mysteries about the human body. Wu Tong really didn't think that others would be able to figure out any secrets from Chen Guang. Those scientists weren't that obsessed. Chen Guang was no longer a nobody that anyone could touch. In the office of the Guangdong General Administration in Wujing, Xian Qin said, "Is Big Chrysanthemum a monster?" Wu Miaowan said, "I think so. A great magus can even learn something as profound as magic. What's so strange about knowing a few more languages?" Xian Qin said, "But that's close to 5,000. Wu Miaowan pondered for a long time. There are thousands of ways in the world, but in the end, they all come together. Is Director Archmage trying to learn everything without a teacher? Xian Qin waved her hand indifferently. Maybe. God knows. What Qingguang did today seemed incomprehensible. However, Compared to when he used Right Chun to cast a forbidden spell to destroy the world in Dole World, it paled in comparison. Xin Qin said that she was calm. Lu Xiaoyang, who was standing below the stage, almost shrunk his neck into his stomach. He said to Fong Tianyu, who was tearing his resignation letter, bitterly, "Old Fong, Chief Chen slapped us in the face again." Fong Tianyu stuffed the shredded paper into his pocket and rubbed his face. "It's okay. I'm getting used to it after being hit a few more times. My resistance is much stronger now." Yu Hong's skin wasn't as thick as these two. His old face was flushed red, and he was extremely embarrassed. After a short pause, the whole world's audience was shocked. This guy actually did it. We owe him an apology. Before, we thought that you were shameless. Now, we finally know that every word you say is so sincere. In our eyes, your actions were arrogant, domineering, and unreasonable. But now, we understand that you were just stating the truth. Compared to you, these two people called Pu Tsangnan and Butler are really shameless. They clearly fell behind, but they still stubbornly refused to withdraw from the competition. They were waiting for others to withdraw so that they could get second or third place. This is a real villain. I'm sorry, Chen Guang. We were wrong. The more people scolded Chen Guang online or in real life, the more apologetic they felt. They finally understood how Chen Guang felt before. Using a Chinese saying, others laugh at me for being too crazy, but I laugh at them for not seeing through me. This guy had already stood at a height that mortals couldn't imagine. No wonder when he faced thousands of criticisms online and faced all kinds of disdain and slander from the judges and contestants, he only responded with an increasingly arrogant attitude. He never made any explanation or clarification, because there was no need to. He wasn't the one who was wrong. It was us. Our entire world was wrong. Chapter 877. In Chen Guang's live stream. The one who said yesterday that Brother Allrounder would eat *T if he didn't cheat, come out. Save it, brother. If these people could really fulfill their promises, our country's septic tanks would have been empty. The Buddha jumps over the wall team is here. They're so strong. They're invincible. So many gifts. Grab the bamboo. So many. It's raining for the big gift bag. I feel sorry for Miss Chu for 30 seconds. Brother Allrounder is indeed more awesome. Actually, Miss Chu is also quite amazing. If it weren't for those two shameless losers, she would have been the one to persevere to the end. That's right. Can someone explain it to me? How's his brain work? That's right. I almost vomited blood when I learned a foreign language. How old is this guy? How did he learn it? I used to think that those myths were just legends. I don't know why, but I'm starting to believe them today. Similar thoughts and conversations were happening all over the world. A live audience of 150 million people had an unparalleled impact on this matter. It spread all over the world. Everyone who heard about this for the first time had the same reaction. Their mouths were wide open, and their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? You can't be crazy, right? Wake up, it's morning. Sleep, baby. You drank too much. Dr. Bast, come to my house. My little George has gone crazy. That was the gist of it. Chen Guang had done many unimaginable things in the past. For example, when he played two pianos at the same time, Death Waltz and Pull 3, it was completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. His pencil sharpening skills were also incredible. With his relatively thin and weak body, he crushed all the competitors in the international arm wrestling competition. The American Secret Service organization almost couldn't help but try to capture him. As a complete amateur, he successfully forced an airplane to land successfully, which was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. He single-handedly dominated the global Dota Throne Challenge, sweeping away all the top players in the world without any suspense. Up until now, no one had been able to get close to his record of 10,000 on the fourth server. Many people still couldn't understand it. However, many people still felt that there was a possibility of Chen Guang's previous actions being possible. Otherwise, these were things that could be done through practice. Perhaps some people were physically gifted, so it was not completely impossible. For example, In the CCTV variety show, Challenging the Impossible, there was once a foreigner who dived to a depth of 130 meters and returned to the surface safely without any diving equipment. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand the strong water pressure if they dived to a depth of 30 meters. The talented diving master was also amazing. However, the impact of what Chen Guang had done this time was too great. What he had done in front of everyone in the world was completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. A great man once said that the strength of human imagination determined how far one could go. Even if his body hadn't reached it, his heart had already touched the boundary. But so far, out of the more than 6 billion people in the world, almost no one had ever imagined that someone could actually master all the human languages in the world. 4,978. No one had ever thought of such a thing, even if it was just a drunken fantasy. Even in movies and television dramas that were detached from reality, no one had ever acted in such an exaggerated manner. But this had already become a reality, and it was ruthlessly placed in front of everyone. Facts spoke louder than words. Chen Guang's unreserved dazzling skills had completely shaken the whole world. He had exceeded the boundaries of human imagination by too much. He had suddenly made the world realize that the power of human intelligence could reach such heights and depths. Could it be that he was really an existence that had unlocked the gene lock? Did he belong to another era? Furthermore, did the gene lock really exist? What had be done to unlock it? Similar thoughts suddenly emerged in many people's minds. It was not difficult to imagine how much of a stir Chen Guang's actions would cause in the world in a short period of time. The storm had just begun. The news that someone had mastered all the human languages would quickly sweep across the entire human civilization like wildfire. Just as Chu Zijin thought, Chen Guang had indeed opened a door to a new world for all mankind. Perhaps on the other side of the door, there was an existence like him. Perhaps that person could no longer be considered human. God? But that was not right. The Chen Guang on the stage still had 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. He looked no different from an ordinary person. His body was not glowing either. The old president of the World Language Association walked forward step by step with trembling hands. He could no longer suppress his excitement. He had never thought that he would be a witness to history. The young man standing on the stage was the greatest linguist in human history. No one could be compared to him. He was a gift from the era. His appearance was a miracle. He was destined to go down in history. Do you see the golden trophy placed on the podium beside him? This is the recognition of this year's World Language Society for him. In less than a minute, I will personally hold this trophy in his hands. And my photo with him will be the witness of this epic moment. Many years later, when Chen Guang's name appears in the history books, it will also be written in the same way. On X year, X month, X day, the greatest linguist in human history, Chen Guang, appeared out of nowhere at this World Language Conference. With an unstoppable momentum, he easily won the championship of the World Language Conference, announcing his appearance to the world. Below this line of words was a photo of him holding the trophy high. Beside him, there would definitely be a figure of him. At the bottom of the photo, there would be a small line of words. The then president of the World Language Association, Oppenheimer Verghese, personally awarded the trophy that symbolized glory to Chen Guang. This incomparably glorious moment belongs to him. And it also belongs to me. Looking at the trembling but extremely firm back of the old president, Huang Changming could not hide the disappointment in his heart. How I wish it was me. This old guy got it first. Do you have the face to give out the trophy? Didn't you look down on our Chen Guang before? Huang Changming had forgotten that he was also quite shameless. Chen Guang slowly retracted his arm, and the cheers below the stage did not stop. He thought to himself, now that the idol in the world within the Heaven Line Cup had appeared, his original goal had been achieved. There seemed to be no point in continuing to stay here. It was time to leave. As for the subsequent scoring and award ceremonies, he would count the gains and losses of this World Language Conference, how much the company had earned, and how the bonuses would be distributed. Sorry, I don't care about these things. Anyway, Tianguang Brokerage would definitely not lose money. He had already received more than 170 million. Now, the gifts in his live broadcast room would definitely be off the charts. If he won the championship, he would get back 50 million. After deducting the tax, he would get back 40 million. The total expenses were exactly 100 million. After deducting the dividends from the Huaxiao Language Association, the net profit should be close to 80 million. Looking at the whole world, how many startup private companies could earn as much as he did? A world language conference with less than 2 weeks of preparation time could earn 80 million. Who could compare? In addition, the companies and organizations that sponsored and bought the rights to the live broadcast also earned a lot of money. This was a happy result for everyone. Then, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Chen Guang didn't care about the old president of the World Language Association who was walking on the stage. He also didn't care about the golden trophy beside him. He planned to slip away. What a joke. How could the old man's ability be summed up by a mere trophy? Besides, I heard that the trophy was gilded and not made of pure gold. I can't be bothered to take it, okay? However, at this time, the female host rushed up with a red face. She stood beside Chen Guang and said loudly in an extremely excited tone, "Mr. Chen, may I ask if you have anything to say to everyone? Each and every one of us would like to hear your thoughts right now." The female host, who had been busy the whole day, almost didn't rest. It wasn't easy for her to last until now. Chen Guang looked at her trembling legs and felt tired for her. He thought to himself, since she has come up to ask, should I force myself to say a few words? Taking the microphone from the female host, Chen Guang raised his head slightly and looked around the huge venue. The venue, which was extremely noisy just a moment ago, was instantly silent. Everyone held their breath and waited to listen to his teachings. In a sense, he was one of the greatest scholars in the world. Even listening to him casually say a few words about life was better than reading 10 years of books. In the corner of the venue, there was a very eye-catching group of people. This group of people sat together, and their shiny bald heads made them look particularly dazzling. However, after 3 consecutive days of competition, no one was curious about this group of people anymore. Yes, that's right. This was Chen Guang's most loyal, #1 fan group, the Anti-Light Alliance. As long as it was an event that Chen Guang participated in, the Anti-Light Alliance would be there. Their bald heads were their greatest symbol and also the belief of this group of true loyal fans. This was the purest fan group. They didn't accept female fans or membership fees. Everyone was the purest form of worship. They fought on the front lines for Brother Almighty Online. When Brother Almighty's company was attacked by anti-fans, they also bravely stood up to defend Brother Almighty's company. They never profited, they only cared about giving. Their hearts were pure, and only the purest true loyal fans had the right to join this great group. At this moment, the bald president was looking at Chen Guang's figure on the stage with tears streaming down his face. The vice president beside him was tugging at his sleeve and speaking in an emotional but low voice. "Mr. President, I didn't expect Brother Almighty to be so great. It's not in vain that we've been his fans. Mr. President, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Are you also touched by Brother Almighty? I knew you were lying to us, Mr. President. Although you always say that you're Brother Almighty's anti-fan, we actually know that it's because you love him deeply. Mr. President, are you crying tears of joy?" The other members of the Anti-Light Alliance who were sitting beside the president also spoke softly with mixed emotions. One after another, they patted the back of the crying tears of joy president. The president really cried, and tears flowed down his cheeks. "Touch your sister. I'm crying tears of joy, your sister. I'm really sad, okay? Do you think it's easy for me? I created an anti-Chen Guang alliance and unknowingly became a super loyal fan group that was worshipped by Chen Guang's fans all over the world. To all Chen Guang's anti-fans, I'm guilty. I've let you down, but I can't bear to leave these friends. Although our ideals are different, I can't bear to leave because of our friendship. Whenever Chen Guang has a show, I also need to be there to see his misfortune, so we've always been inseparable. But why is it like this? God, are you torturing me? The day before yesterday, and yesterday were probably the happiest 2 days of my life. Seeing him so unlucky, I feel so good. I feel so satisfied. I feel that paying out of my own pocket to follow him around is worth it. He's finally going to suffer. His false mask of angling for fame was finally going to be exposed. But what's going on today? What's going on? From heaven to hell, I've been falling for an entire day. Now, I've succeeded in showing off again. Can you understand the sadness in my heart? I'm already starting to doubt my philosophy of life, okay? I'm even about to convince myself that he's really awesome. The most infuriating thing is, when did this guy grow his hair? And it's so elegant. We agreed to be bald together, but you're the one with long black hair first. Are you even human? God, you're poisonous, right? Mr. President, don't cry. Brother All-Purpose is going to speak. The bald-headed president silently wiped his tears. Okay, that's it. On the stage, Chen Guang took a deep breath. It's coming. The teachings of the strongest linguist in history. Chen Guang finally opened his mouth slowly and said calmly, "Everyone, remember to support my new movie, Women." Truth be told, the principles of generalization could only be said when chatting with others in private. He felt annoyed and pointless to talk in front of so many people. It was pointless. After thinking about it, now that the world of the Language Masters Cup has reached the status of a god, why not warm up the other world of the one-line heavenly cup, the world of acting? After a brief silence, 2 golden words flew up in the sky above the earth, piercing the sky, standing on the ground. F*CK. Did I give you face? Who advertises like that? Why don't you do an Armstrong spiral 3,600 degrees in the air? Those who had a certain understanding of him remembered at this moment. This scene was so familiar. If they remember correctly, he did the same thing at the press conference after saving the Airbus A320. It was supposed to be a press conference, a heroic declaration, but he ended up advertising his piano performance the next week. At that time, they thought that this guy was just having a mental spasm. Now, these people who knew the ropes understood that this was his routine from the start. This guy has already played this marketing advertising trick to perfection. If you hadn't just refreshed our outlook on life and the world, we would have rushed up to beat you up. Okay? I knew it. This guy would definitely do something weird. Director Deng, is President Chun trying to put us on the fire? Big Beard Deng, don't talk to me. I want some peace and quiet. The international aviation industry staff, watching the competition, were rocking back and forth with laughter. The CEO of Pan AM slammed the table in his office and said loudly, "These people really don't learn from their mistakes." When the host asked him to speak, I felt like something was going to happen. They're in the same boat as us. After saying this, Chen Guang felt that the effect of the advertisement was very good. If the movie didn't make 3 or 4 billion yuan at the box office, it would be a waste of his advertisement. I don't even need to increase the box office. I definitely don't want the spirit field. Can you find an advertisement on Earth that has a more immediate and wider coverage than my advertisement? Uncle Big Beard should be moved to tears by now, right? Chen Guang turned to leave. The old president, who was standing next to the stage, hurriedly shouted, "Mr. Chun, the trophy." As he shouted, he tried to step forward and reached out his hand. Chen Guang said, thinking that he didn't want to take it because it was too troublesome, but now that he had been exposed, he had to take it. Otherwise, it would be too disrespectful to the world's language society. So he turned around, picked up the trophy with lightning-fast hands, made a simple gesture to the audience below the stage, made a simple pose, smiled, and then turned to leave. The poor old President Oppenheimer's hand hung in midair. He looked at Chen Guang holding the trophy and was stunned. In Chinese, there is nothing more sorrowful than a dead heart, right? My group photo. Chapter 878. Without greeting anyone, Chen Guang ran out of the Dongxing Exhibition Center's back door. When he reached the staff's underground parking lot, he remembered that he did not have a car in Beijing. Previously, Big Beard Deng said that Chen Guang had a competition, so Yangshi did not need to accompany him for the next 2 days. Yangshi went to the film set today and did not wait for Chen Guang. I stiffened. holding the huge trophy and standing alone in the cold underground parking lot. Chun Guang felt like a fool. The security guard in charge of the parking lot was still watching the TV. The TV was showing the World Language Conference and was still giving the other contestants their scores. Chun Guang, wait for me. Chun Guang turned around and saw Chu Zijin running over. Why did you follow me? Chu Zijin shrugged. You are already gone. What am I doing there? Don't mess around. Isn't this still a score? If I remember correctly, the top 20 should have a prize, right? With your performance just now, I estimate that you are at least a top 5 contender. Unexpectedly, this fanatic, cute girl shrugged. I am not first. What's the point? I don't want the prize money. You are thinking too much. You want to be first? How about in your next life? What a joke. The prize money for the top 5 is at least 5 million. Go back and get it. I feel that you might even get second or third place. Chu Zijin grinned and said, Don't worry. The judges all know that I'm one of your people. They definitely won't mess around with the scores. If they really give me a score, even if I'm not there, I won't get a single cent less. Haven't you already left? Chun Guang stared. Of course I don't need to worry about the prize money. All right. When did you become my person? That's not what I mean. What are you thinking? In the end, Chun Guang still could not chase Chu Zijin away. The reason was simple. This young girl actually had a car. It was I who lost. You are already an adult, right? Can I get a driver's license? As the god of racing, Chun Guang sat in the driver's seat and asked Chu Zijin as he started the car. Actually, this was his test. Cute fanatic girl. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Wait, what did she mean when she said she didn't mean it that way? Could it be that the fanatics actually didn't want to offer their beautiful bodies? This was illogical. Not good. The old man's willpower is out of control again. Collect for me. I am a righteous man. 2 years ago, I hacked the Household Registration Information Network and changed my age by 3 years. Now, I'm already 21 on my ID card. Chun Guang, very good, very strong. You can do it. Underage. Sigh. Wait, you sound disappointed. No, absolutely not. I know very well about you. Stop pretending. I know that your private life is very messy. Why did it feel like she was being seen through? Halfway through the car, old Master Guang didn't give up and turned to look at her from time to time. There was no problem. The light green line of faith on her forehead was not fake. She was a real fanatic. Why do you keep looking at me? Is there something wrong with my face? Chu Zijin couldn't take it anymore. Chun Guang looked back. No, I have a presumptuous request. Speak, I'm listening. Can you flash for a moment? Chu Zijin was stunned. Flash? Then, she quickly reacted. After all, she was also a professional female broadcaster. How could she not know such professional words? Wake up, it's time to take your medicine. Chu Zijin rolled her eyes and didn't say anything. Hearing those words, Chun Guang was briefly stunned. He had no idea what went wrong. He made this joke not because he really wanted to do anything to Chu Zijin, but because of Chu Zijin's abnormal behavior. He was curious and wanted to test if there was a problem with his fanatic's faith. He would know after testing it. Could it be that something went wrong with my heavenly holy grail? This fanatic was not sincere enough at all. Thank you. After a while, Chu Zijin suddenly said inexplicably, Chun Guang, huh? I know you can tell. I really admire you, just like those brainless groupies. I don't deny this. I know you are worried that I will be like other girls, unable to extricate myself from you. You did that on purpose just now to remind me not to lose my modesty just because I admire you, right? You are actually a good person. Chun Guang stared at her. This crazy person's train of thought was really wide. You can understand my flirting like this? You're really good at using the good person card. All right, in a sense, you're not wrong to think that way. He didn't want to explain anymore. He realized that this girl's biggest problem was that her brain worked too fast. In an instant, she could go from a trivial matter to thousands of miles away. Speaking of which, she was indeed amazing. In the past, she had also shown many extraordinary talents in her live broadcasts. She could actually learn more than 30 languages in her spare time. If it wasn't for his existence, she would probably be considered a top genius in this world. She should be on the same level as the self-destructing maniac Nicosia Teppert. It seemed that he had underestimated her. Although the real her didn't have the mysterious air she showed in the live broadcast, her true level of genius was actually far beyond the ability she showed in the broadcast. Perhaps she had also held back in the live broadcast. Since Sheng Yu, he Sheng Liang, and the old man were born in the same era, it was really a tragedy for geniuses like you. Old Master Guang thought narcissistically. In the end, nothing happened between him and Chu Zijin. Firstly, he didn't have that intention. Secondly, although Chu Zijin admired him, she didn't turn her admiration into an impulse to give herself to him. She was very rational and organized her emotions and thoughts very clearly. She could even use her rationality to analyze her own feelings. After returning to the hotel, Chen Guang booked a plane ticket back to the 5 capitals tomorrow. He had nothing to do today, so he went to see the situation inside the Heavenly Holy Grail. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to enter the world in the cup. In fact, he could have gone and take a look first, but he had been holding back. Although he didn't know what kind of surprise the statue in the world in the line of Heaven's Cup would bring, he had a hunch that it wouldn't disappoint him. If it was in the past, Liuli would have notified him in his heart. However, recently, Liuli's seclusion had almost become a missing person. If he didn't know that she was in Yunqing and couldn't go anywhere, Chen Guang would have put up a missing person notice. At this time, Chen Guang was like buying a scratch-off lottery ticket. He could draw the lottery at any time, but he just didn't. He had to bathe and change his clothes, fast for 3 days, and then make a sincere wish in his heart. Then, he went to the temple to burn incense, and accumulated his luck to the extreme before he carefully scratched the cover on the lottery ticket. It was impossible to fast for 3 days, but he could bathe and change his clothes first. It would be good to complete half of it first. At least it would show that his attitude was very correct. 15 minutes later, Chen Guang changed into a loose set of pajamas, and then opened the bamboo leaf green in the private room. He used the Heavenly Holy Cup to make a cup of hot tea. Then, he picked up the cup, ran to the deck chair on the balcony, and lay down. He gently took a sip of tea, held the lid of the cup in his hand, and closed his eyes. In the next moment, he had already appeared in Yunqing. Looking around, the place where Liuli used to sit was still empty. It seemed that she was still wrapped in the leaves of the deer cry fruit and hadn't come out. Turning his head, Chen Guang looked into the distance. The clouds in the sky seemed to be a bit more numerous than usual. However, ever since Cloud City was formed, if he didn't intentionally control it, he wouldn't be able to see the faith threads that covered the sky and covered the earth. At this time, on the platform of the wall of Yunqing, there was a dazzling, milky white ball of light that was flickering. Even Chen Guang himself couldn't clearly see what the statue of God in the ball of light looked like with his naked eye. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to fly over to check the appearance of the statue of God. Instead, he was calculating the production of faith value in his heart. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't checked, but after checking, he was shocked. The statue of God in the world in the one-line heavenly cup was really too terrifying. The production of faith value was actually 10 times that of the divine spirit statue. Now, with the increasing recovery of the deer cry fruit's ability, the production limit of the 7 divine spirit statues had already reached 52110. At this time, the statue of God formed from the world of languages had yet to be fully formed, but the gathering of faith value had already been completed, and the production had reached a full 521,100. There was an additional 0 at the back. The total production of faith value of the Heavenly Holy Cup instantly shot up from just over 400,000 to more than 900,000. Moreover, it seemed that because there were too many threads of faith value connected at the same time, even though the absorption of faith value had already been completed, the statue of God was still changing, as if there was some other way. Simply put, the crazy faith value brought by reaching 150 million people at the same time made the newly born statue of God's capacity completely explode. Although the production had reached the upper limit, the change in quantity led to a qualitative change. According to Liuli's theory as a lab rat, there must be something that he and she weren't aware of that was about to happen. Thinking back to the poor treatment he received every time he wanted to undergo special training, Chen Guang also felt extremely regretful. Don't anyone talk to me about great principles. In the future, I don't want to experience the beggar's version of the world in the cup ever again. That thing is simply poisonous. Don't think about such a simple good thing. In the future, you won't be able to customize special training like before. At this time, Liu Li's voice finally floated over from the deer cry fruit. Chen Guang said in shock, "What's going on? Why is this happening? You already have the statue of God in the world in the line Heavenly Holy Cup. The Heavenly Holy Cup has determined that you have passed the novice stage. According to the online game in your world, you have already left the novice village. Do you still want to go back to the novice village to bully the newbies?" From a moment the statue of the language master began to brew, you can no longer use the most basic custom-made special training of the Heavenly Holy Cup. Chen Guang's face darkened. Isn't this a trap? Leveling up also brings about degradation of functions? Is this Heavenly Holy Cup addicted to leveling up in reverse? I keep feeling that you're the one who's tricking me. Why didn't you say something so important earlier? Chen Guang was furious. If I had known it would be like this, I would have endured it a little longer. I would have gotten more special training of the Heavenly Holy Cup and built the statue of God in the line Heavenly Holy Cup. This emperor has tricked you, so what? Sure enough, the goddess was the goddess. This one is lost. Chapter 879. Oomph. Little brat, it's good that you know how powerful it is. What do you know? The Heavenly Holy Grail is to prevent you from getting lost in the low-level spirit, seeing sky level. Understand? It's for your own good. Spirit seeing sky is so easy, and it's cheap. It's also cost-effective. It wasn't easy for me to accumulate more than 900,000 faith points a day, and I can get a super deluxe special training every 2 days. How great is that? What nonsense are you thinking about? Think about the sea of moments in the sky glimmer. A single world in a cup allowed you to learn close to 5,000 languages. How can this effect be compared to the lowest level spirit seeing sky? Not letting you use the spirit seeing sky special training is to let you obediently level up to the sky glimmer. Why don't you understand the painstaking efforts of this emperor and the Heavenly Holy Grail? Look at you. This emperor knows that you will definitely be immersed in the relaxed spirit seeing sky. You should know that there is no free lunch in the infinite worlds. If you want to become the true lord of the 3,000 worlds, you can only advance bravely and bravely, cutting off your own path of retreat. Only then can you be free of worries. Chen Guang shrugged. I understand the logic, but I didn't cut off my path of retreat. It was you who cut it off for me. Don't worry about the details. You don't have a choice anyway. As the two were chatting, the ball of light on the Cloud City platform flickered continuously, finally dimming down. Chen Guang turned back to look, feeling extremely surprised. He had originally thought that the statue this time would be a huge mouth, but what appeared on the platform was a strange round ball of light. This ball of light was about 3,000 feet in diameter, floating in the air like a colorful sun. Chen Guang flew up using his will. When he got closer, he could clearly see that this ball of light was actually made up of countless mysterious symbols. These symbols were slowly revolving around the center, according to a law that he completely did not understand. Every symbol looked like words, but also did not have any meaning, like a ghost drawing of a peach talisman. Chen Guang got even closer, squinting his eyes to look. With a thought, the originally fingernail-sized symbol strangely kept enlarging in his eyes. Only then did Chen Guang realize that the symbol, which looked like a hole, was actually made up of countless smaller symbols. Why don't you try zooming in again? He thought to himself. As expected, the image in his eyes continued to enlarge. The small symbols that formed the big symbols were actually made up of countless smaller symbols. Don't waste your energy. There's something strange about this statue of yours. In the words of some mathematicians in your world, even if you magnify it infinitely, you still won't be able to reverse it. You'll only see countless smaller symbols forming a larger symbol. When you can really see through the mystery of this statue, I should be able to get out of here. Chen Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. My dear Lord Lioli, this is only the second level of the world in the cup. Does it have to be so scary? Was this statue really that powerful? Doesn't our supreme Holy Grail have 9 layers? Lioli spat at him. A normal one-line sky god isn't this strange, but what? But you brat played a little too big this time. The first time you condensed the one-line sky god, you successfully created the strongest ultimate god statue. Therefore, some unexpected changes happened. Huh? Ultimate god statue? I've learned a new term. What changes? Perhaps it's because you obtained the absolute recognition of over 100 million people at the same time, which gave birth to the ultimate god statue. I'm not too sure about the specifics. If I could figure it out, I would have regained my freedom long ago. In any case, you only need to know that these symbols in your statue represent the ability to communicate with all living things. The so-called ultimate god statue is the complete form that represents this realm and level. It sounds amazing, but what's the benefit? Communicating with all living things? Does it mean that my ability to communicate with people has already broken through the sky? Can I talk to a rock in the future? Chen Guang thought that his premonition was indeed accurate, not to mention the explosive increase in faith value. This inexplicable ultimate god statue sounded very scary. It was impossible that it didn't have any benefits. Am I going to be rich? Dream on. You've mastered all human languages on Earth, and your brain has mastered all human languages. You know the birth and evolution of these languages like the back of your hand. Your ability to communicate has indeed broken through the limits of humans on Earth. However, this only means that you've entered the door of communicating with all living things. You still have a long way to go. The realm of gods is not something that you can imagine at the moment. Then what's the use of this ultimate god statue? No, of course it's useful. Right now, these symbols in the statue are evolving on their own. It's the statue that is helping you complete the process of deduction. It's the statue that is helping you walk. When the statue truly completes all the deductions, you will truly have the ability to communicate with all living things. At that time, you might really be able to chat with a rock. You might even be able to give a soul to a lifeless object. You will become a god like me. Chen Guang was overjoyed. So powerful. How many years will it take? I've calculated with my fingers. 100 million years. You're King kidding me. This emperor is serious. I would have become a fossil in 100 million years. What's the use of this? Of course it's useful. This statue at least means that you have the possibility. It's just like the tickets to those activities. With the tickets, you can at least enter the door. Apart from that, the ultimate god statue also brings you another benefit. What benefit? A title. From now on, you're also a person with a title. That sounds awesome. What's the title? The god of communication. Doesn't that sound a little too wretched? You might as well be called the god of shady transactions. The electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail sounded without warning. Congratulations on the successful naming of the Redeemer. Earth Sauce Exploder Chen Guang has obtained the title, God of Shady Transactions. Chen Guang's eyes widened. What's going on? Does this mean that our idle chatter just now inexplicably triggered the naming mechanism of the heavenly Holy Grail again? Yes, that's right. Isn't this a little too casual? It's clearly such a serious matter. Why didn't you inform me in advance? Or at least give me a hint. Is this your first time dealing with the heavenly Holy Grail? Chen Guang was instantly speechless. I've been tricked by my own naming disease again. Forget it. Can we change it? Name change failed. Once a title is determined, it can't be changed. Chen Guang slapped himself in the face. He didn't know why, but he really wanted to strangle himself. All right, stop struggling. God of shady transactions, Earth Sauce Exploder Chen Guang. Azure decisively added insult to injury. She loved to see Chen Guang's unlucky look. No, I can still salvage a little more. How can the heavenly Holy Grail be taken lightly? How can it be changed just because you say so? Be reasonable and don't change it. All right, stop talking nonsense. Don't you want to know the benefits of this title? Huh, there are benefits? I've only just received a hint from the spirit of the Holy Grail. This title of God of Shady Transactions does indeed have some practical value. Please speak. When necessary, you can activate the Force Shady Transaction mode. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. I won't be able to use this function for the rest of my life. No. This Force Shady Transaction mode isn't what you think it is. For example, if you want to ask someone to do something, but under normal circumstances, the other party won't agree. At this time, you can forcefully pull him into the Shady Transaction mode and use arguments to forcefully convince the other party, thereby achieving your goal. Then, the other party will unknowingly think that your unreasonable request is also reasonable. Chen Guang thought about it in his mind. It's the same principle as the War of Words mode in the glorious Three Kingdoms that I played before. Forced Shady Transaction. He recalled the diplomatic mode in the history of the Three Kingdoms. Once, he was almost destroyed by the computer because he was hosting the computer. Then, he decisively sent a civil official to negotiate for peace, but the computer could destroy him in minutes. In the end, he triggered the War of Words mode. Then he relied on the victory of the War of Words to forcefully negotiate for peace, which bought him precious time to continue struggling at death's door for 30 years, although in the end, he was still invaded by the southern barbarians. Sometimes, the War of Words mode would also be triggered when a general surrendered. Although this mode was completely unreasonable, it was indeed useful. Lioli humphed. That's right. You've also played the glorious Three Kingdoms before. I played it when I had nothing to do. I've been busy recently, so I don't have time. Oh, all right. If there's nothing else, you can scram. I have to busy myself again. Chen Guang's mouth twitched. Be careful that I don't force you to do a shady transaction and make you call me Dear Master Guang in the future. Do you believe it or not? Save it with me. How can a mortal conduct shady transactions with a god? All right, let me give you a reminder. From today onwards, don't easily use your faith points. I have a great use for it, so the more you save, the better. Originally, I didn't intend to tell you in advance, but since you've created a Skyline God statue, and the production of faith points has skyrocketed, I can reveal a little to you. Chen Guang's eyes lit up. The big plan that Lioli had been working on for a long time had finally revealed some clues. No, as the god of shady transactions, how could I let her fool me so easily? I have to swindle some information out of her. All right, stop bluffing. You already have inner strength now, but it's not strong enough. You don't have an absolute guarantee of safety in this world. I'm tired of being your nanny, so I plan to let your inner strength become like that as soon as possible. It can be of great use, so you don't have to ask me for help for no reason. Sigh, having a roundworm in my stomach is so strenuous. There's no sense of accomplishment at all. How dare you say that I'm a roundworm? Dear Cry, help me send him on his way. Pia. Master Guang directly slapped Dear Cry's big leaf out of the cup world. Coming out of the cup world, he looked at his watch. All right, there's no need to look anymore. Cell phones nowadays don't display seconds, so there's no way of knowing how many seconds have passed. He stood up and turned on the television, switching to the Central TV Entertainment Channel. The group of judges were still bitterly giving their scores, and even Chen Guang felt tired for them. Fortunately, he had run away quickly. The old man didn't need to participate in such trivial matters. Then the problem was, what should he do now? What? Hit the sword tower to practice martial arts? How strange. Ever since he found out that Lioli's grand plan was related to his inner force, his entire body suddenly became limp, and he couldn't muster up any energy at all. It's probably because I've been gaming too much recently, and my gaming overload disorder is acting up again. Let me rest for 17 or 18 years before I consider this matter. Chen Guang's mind was in a mess. He felt that there were many things he wanted to do, but he didn't know what to do immediately. It was only past 7 in the evening, and he was still miles away from sleeping. He lay alone in his room, feeling that once he didn't feel like gaming, he would become bored. His intuition told him that this wouldn't do. He was the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, Lioli's savior, so he had to make efficient use of his time. Life was about persevering and fighting, and he couldn't waste even an inch of time. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. All right, He finally remembered that he hadn't had dinner yet. After calling the restaurant's customer service and ordering a set meal for three, Chun Guang began to fiddle with the computer in boredom again. Compared to a few days ago, there had been a 180-degree turn of events on the internet. He didn't need to read too much to imagine how these people would talk about him now. For example, the number of comments under his most recent update on Weibo had exceeded 500,000 today, and it was rushing straight to the extremely exaggerated figure of 1 million comments. It wasn't impossible for it to exceed 3 million comments in 3 or 4 days. His number of Weibo fans had increased by another 10 million these days, reaching an outrageous 31 million. Once again, it was emphasized that they were all living people and there were no zombie fans. The last time a celebrity's Weibo was so popular, it was already when the wife of a popular A-list male celebrity had an affair. This Weibo post was produced by Tianguang Management Company, and the whole process of Chun Guang's World Language Conference was brilliantly edited. The production was rushed, but it was still beautiful enough. Chun Guang didn't even dare to look at the comments below. If he read too much, he was afraid that he would become arrogant and complacent. He randomly picked one. Brother all-rounder, I want to give birth to your child. This young lady was very honest. Not only did she comment, but she even attached an untouched photo of her bare face. She was really beautiful. Brother all-rounder, I want to give birth to your child too. Damn it, this guy was a guy. The two comments with the highest number of likes were reposted and commented by Jin Shuriwei and Jiang Yage. Sure enough, the halo of popularity that came with the two of them was strong enough. Wherever they went, they were the focus of attention. Even if they hid in hundreds of thousands of comments and randomly posted an emoji, they would be picked out and praised for the next year. Jiang Yage only sent an emoji and a thumbs-up gesture. Jin Shuriwei typed a paragraph. I always knew that you were the best. Not only these two, but other celebrities that Chun Guang didn't know also reposted and commented on their own. He didn't know if it was started by Jin Shuriwei or Jiang Yage. But that wasn't important. What was important was that Chun Guang's Weibo couldn't be stopped. Before dinner was delivered, Chun Guang received a few more calls. They were probably from Lu Fei, Wu Tong, and Zhuo Jingxi. Even his younger sister, Fan Lingshan, who he hadn't seen for a long time and was currently in her 3rd year of high school, sent him a message to congratulate him. As for Tang Ying, well, Chun Guang took the initiative to call her to report the good news, but she turned off her phone. Over at school, Lin Jingwei started a video chat with him. Chun Guang realized that the three of them had already printed out his photo and hung it on the wall. There was an incense burner below it, just like how the seniors would burn incense and pray to Brother Chun before every exam. Chun Guang had become the new generation's prodigy. Chapter 880. F***. I was just saying, you guys don't really have to worship me, right? Bai Nyangzi snatched the phone from Lin Jingwei's hand. Brother Guang, you have no idea how popular you are in school now. If we don't act quickly, our business will be snatched away. Chun Guang was puzzled. Business? Bai Nyangzi dodged and aimed the camera behind him. On the coffee table in the dormitory living room was a thick stack of freshly baked photos that were still emitting steam. On the photo was a picture of Chun Guang's big pancake face. Beside the pancake face was a bunch of words. The first line, if you believe in Brother Guang, you will not fail. The second line, if you worship the prodigy, you will gain eternal life. The horizontal line, invincible. F***CKU. Chun Guang immediately understood what these bastards were planning. They were planning to make a fortune by selling his photos. Lin Jingwei's head popped out of the video. The cost is 50 yuan per photo. Let's sell it for 5 yuan. How about that? I'll give you half of the profits. Chun Guang secretly rolled his eyes. Your grandfather's New Year's money should be enough for you to live freely for the rest of your life. How embarrassing. Wait, don't sell it yet. Wait for me to come back and sign it before selling it. It's 50 yuan per photo. I'll personally consecrate it. It'll appreciate. As expected of Brother Guang. You're a genius. That's for sure. As Chun Guang chatted with the others, someone knocked on the door. When he opened the door, there was a handsome young man standing outside. He was dressed in a neat waiter's uniform. Master Guang's eyes narrowed. This year's Tianjin hotel didn't have a high EQ. How could they send a young man to deliver food to a male tenant? You even sent such a handsome young man. It's obvious that you're targeting me. Forget it. Fortunately, I'm more handsome than him. Mr. Chun, your dinner. The young man straightened his back and stood at the door in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He felt uncomfortable being scrutinized by Chun Guang from head to toe. Just now, in order to snatch the place to deliver food to Chun Guang, the guest service department almost fought. At the critical moment, the manager stood up to calm the situation and let him, the only person who didn't fight for the place, deliver the food. The young man was a little reluctant, but he couldn't ignore the manager's words, so he stiffened his neck and came. Looking at Chun Guang in front of him, the young man thought to himself, I don't have 3 heads and 6 arms. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Xiaoli was really something. Why did she worship him? Was that necessary? Thinking back to when he was in the customer service department's office, the waitress that he had always admired, Xiaoli, actually said that she was willing to give birth to his child. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Rival in love. That's right, this is my love rival. An imperceptible hostility flashed in the young man's eyes. He could hide it from others, but he couldn't hide it from Chun Guang. As the god of acting, Chun Guang immediately noticed it. This young man doesn't like me? Chun Guang raised his eyebrows slightly, suddenly feeling interested. He immediately remembered the new skill that he had just obtained and hadn't had the chance to test out its power. Forced transaction. Young man, I see that you don't look good, so I have to talk to you. Bro, give me 100 yuan. That's right, not borrow, but directly ask. Chun Guang said casually. He thought of an idea that the young man would never agree to. Forced begging mode. Are you afraid? As expected, the young man was stunned. He looked at Chun Guang with a face full of caution. Mr. Chun, what do you mean? Chun Guang grunted through his nose. Nothing. The next moment, he narrowed his eyes and decisively activated forced transaction mode on the young man. The scenery around the two instantly changed, and they appeared on 2 stone pillars about 2 meters in diameter. The lava below them was boiling, and waves of hot air rose from below. Chun Guang was very familiar with this scene. Wasn't this the battle of words in the glorious 3 kingdoms? The heavenly holy grail really cut corners. He looked up and saw that the young man was standing on another platform. However, there was no panic on his face. Instead, he looked at him calmly. It was obvious that this young man was also a spirit when he came in. Moreover, his mind was in a completely sealed state. There was no emotion at all, just like an NPC in a game. Forced transaction. Begin now. The exclusive electronic voice of the heavenly holy grail echoed in the air. Chun Guang's face darkened. A battle of words was a battle of words. Why did it have to be a forced transaction? No, a battle of words sounded even more wretched. Forget it. Don't worry about the details. The sun is round. The young man who was sealed got into the zone before Chun Guang and initiated an attack at the first instance. As he opened his mouth, a string of words turned into golden light and flew straight in front of him, hitting the pillar below Chun Guang. The pillar rumbled and fell down. You received 5 points of truth damage. The electronic voice of the heavenly holy grail immediately sounded in Chun Guang's mind. Look at my fiery temper. I was the one who wanted to trade with you. And you actually made the first move? Without thinking, Chun Guang pointed at the young man and shouted, 3 monks have no water to eat. The words that came out of his mouth also turned into golden light and flew out, hitting the stone pillar below the young man. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Rocks flew everywhere. The young man's stone pillar was lowered by a lot. It was at least 8 times the distance that Chun Guang fell. Critical hit. You dealt 45 points of proverbial damage to the opponent. The opponent has entered a state of dizziness, triggering a combo. Chun Guang came again. Pleasant goat, pretty goat, baldy strong, let's play mahjong. Another large ball of golden light flew straight in front of him. This time, It directly blew up the stone pillar below the young man. Critical hit. You dealt 65 points of bullshit damage to the opponent. Defeated the opponent. The poor young man fell into the magma with a plop. White smoke was coming out his body. He looked very miserable. In an instant, there was no more sound. With a snort, Chun Guang replied, "Huh? Are you kidding me? The old man is the god of PY, trading who knows 4,987 languages. What are you going to use to fight me?" Although he still did not quite understand this PY trading, Apui, a war of words, Apui. In short, the theory and mode of this war of words mode were not important. Anyway, his attributes were not just 1 or 2 levels higher than the young man's. It was simply the difference between a max-level R&B player and a beginner who had just entered the game. When a young man scolded him, he lost 5 points of HP. When he scolded him, he was stunned by a critical hit. In short, he was very cool. In the blink of an eye, his consciousness returned to reality. The young man, who had been on his guard just a moment ago, walked in excitedly with the lunchbox and placed it on the table with a thud. Then he immediately turned around and took out $100 from his pocket, forcefully stuffing it into Chun Guang's hands. "Mr. Chun, please accept my $100. Old Master Guang was stunned. Why was it so blunt? There was no reason at all. There was no foreshadowing. It was like a person walking on the street, suddenly finding a passerby, pleasing to the eye, and rushing up to give him $100. Was it even possible? Then, the young man turned around and left without looking back. He was as carefree as a living lay feng who did a good deed without leaving his name. Old Master Guang clutched the $100 in his hands. He finally had a deep understanding of the power of this forced PY trading. There was no need to say anything else. He had to quickly call that God Tycoon Gates and execute a forced PY trading with him, making him change the name of the heir on the will to him. Forced PY trading mode is on cooldown. Cooldown time to be determined. Just as he was thinking about this, the heavenly Holy Grail gave him a hint without giving him any face. "Damn it, Lily, you tricked me. You didn't even tell me such important information." Forget it. Thinking about her usual style of doing things, there was nothing strange about this situation. Lily always tricked people unknowingly. It was a familiar smell, a familiar formula. Forget it. Don't bother about those details. Based on her and the heavenly Holy Grail's character, if there was really an emergency, the word "to be determined" in the cooldown time would instantly change to "immediately." As Chun Guang started eating, the young man walked out in a daze. When he was about to return to the office, he heard Xiao Li complaining that the manager didn't allow her to send food to Chun Guang. His body trembled as he realized what was going on. Strange. Why did I want to give Chun Guang $100 so badly just now? Why was this happening? I don't understand at all. But at that time, that thought was so strong. Forget it. Anyway, $100 isn't much. Speaking of which, Chun Guang is really down to earth. He actually accepted $100 just like that. If I were you, I would be too embarrassed to accept it. The next morning, Chun Guang sneaked out of his room and drove Lu Xiaoyang's rented car straight to the airport. "President Chun, why are you running away like a thief? I'm a celebrity now, so I have to be more discreet when I go out. Otherwise, I'll be stuck on the road anytime. Okay? That's true, but do we have to leave at 5:30 in the morning? Shut up. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak." How could Chun Guang admit that he was hiding from Big Beard Deng? Yes, that's right. Finally, his world language conference ended. Although the filming crew didn't get any footage of him for a while, Big Beard Deng decided to come to Tianjin Hotel early in the morning. He only had one purpose, which was to arrest Chun Guang, the investor and the male lead of Women. You didn't get any footage now, but you're a layman and a major shareholder of the movie. You should stay with the crew for a few more days so that I can guide you personally. You can also observe how others act in the movie, right? If Yang Shi hadn't secretly found a chance to text Chun Guang in the middle of the night, Chun Guang would definitely have been caught red-handed this morning. Therefore, he simply set the alarm clock to 5:30 in the morning just to hide from Big Beard. As a best actor, how could he waste his precious time on this kind of thing? After arriving at the airport, Lu Xiaoyang drove away again. There was still a lot of follow-up work for the World Language Conference that needed to be properly completed. Tianguang Brokerage and several capable people not only couldn't get away, but Su Li from the finance department even rushed to Yinjing last night. Chen Guang, wearing a cap, stayed at the airport for more than 2 hours. If he hadn't decisively asked the person in charge of Yinjing Airport to get in through the back door, he would have almost caused a commotion. He couldn't help it. He had just shocked the whole world yesterday, and today his popularity was still in the sky. Who in the world didn't know him? The old man was actually a low-key person, but he couldn't do as he pleased in the world. He had to be famous. He had to let others know him. He had to slap the whole world in the face. Otherwise, how could he set up a statue and collect faith? Celebrities had their advantages, but naturally, they also had their difficulties. This was the price he had to pay for being famous. In this regard, Chen Guang had nothing to complain about. There were gains and losses. He could understand everything, but it was a little troublesome. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.